Trial resumed. Jury not present.
The court said, "Good morning. Would you make your appearances, please?"
Mr. Horton said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Justin Horton, Ryan Finkel and Juliana Murray for the government. We're joined by paralegal Isabel Loftus and agent Robert Stout from the FBI."
The law clerk said, "Defense counsel is not here."
The court said, "Please be seated. We'll wait for them."
Mr. Skirek said, "Apologies, Your Honor."
The court said, "Make your appearances, please."
Mr. Skirek said, "Good morning, Your Honor. Scott Skirek and Matt Barkin on behalf of defendant Mr. Guo. Together at counsel table with Mr. Guo."
The court said, "You may be seated. Is there anything you'd like to raise before we go back to the witness testimony?"
Mr. Finkel said, "Just one thing, Your Honor, and this would affect either the second or the third witness today, who's a victim that was also a follower of the defendant, and worked quite extensively with the defendant. This was a subject of some briefing before Your Honor in motion in limine. That witness. She knows that the defendant is incarcerated, and communicated through his agents while he was incarcerated. We have instructed that witness consistent with Your Honor's ruling not to mention that he's incarcerated. Obviously, we don't tell the witnesses what to say, but to follow the court's ruling, we instructed her as that. Just want to put that on the record."
Mr. Skirek said, "Your Honor, one housekeeping matter I neglected to mention that Mr. Kamraju and Ms. Shroff are also here. Just not at counsel's table at the moment, but they will be here shortly."
The court said, "We'll resume then at 9:29. Please have the witness on the stand."
Recess. Continued on next page. Jury not present.
The court said, "Please be seated. I'm now going to have the interpreters sworn."
Interpreters sworn.
The court said, "On my left, if you would please state your name."
The interpreter said, "Zio Parker."
The court said, "Would you describe your educational background?"
The interpreter said, "I graduated from China. I possess my bachelor's degree, and I came to New York City 10 years ago. I went to NYU University, finished my ESL advanced program. Currently, I'm working with the Federal Immigration Court. I'm certified by the Federal Immigration Court as Mandarin interpreter."
The court said, "So you speak English and Mandarin both fluently?"
The interpreter said, "Yes."
The court said, "Sir, would you describe your educational background?"
The interpreter said, "I have master's degree from Indiana University. And I've been practicing translation and interpretation in New York area for more than 20 years. I'm certified by state of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I go to federal court and state court."
The court said, "And your name, sir?"
The interpreter said, "Lian Wang."
The court said, "And you're fluent both in Mandarin and English, correct?"
The interpreter said, "Correct."
The court said, "All right. Thank you. Please have the jurors brought in."
Continued on next page. Jury present.
The court said, "Please be seated. Good morning, jurors. Welcome back. I had you brought in at 9:33 because we've been having some difficulty with our audio-visual system, and it is mostly fixed, and so that was the delay of a few minutes. Would you continue with the examination of the witness?"
Jenny L.I., previously sworn, testified as follows. Cross-examination continued. By Mr. Skirek.
"Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lee, thank you for coming back this morning. Do you recall yesterday that you testified to having met with representatives of the government on approximately 8 occasions before trial?"
The court said, "It appears that we're also having difficulty with this microphone on the left. They're working on it now. So we'll wait."
Pause.
The court said, "I was just told that there were power surges yesterday that have interfered with the equipment, so hopefully we've got the right fix. You may continue."
Mr. Skirek said, "Thank you, Your Honor. May I ask whether the court reporter was able to take down the question?"
Record was read.
The court said, "I think the best thing to do at this point is to take a break, and we can get the whole team in and working on these machines. So remember not to discuss the case amongst yourselves. All of the same warnings apply that I've been giving you."
Jury not present. Jury not present.
The court said, I'm told that the podium microphone also failed, so that's why we need to get the whole system revamped.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, I believe counsel table's mic is working. Perhaps we could use that mic.
The court said, You mean to extend it over to the podium?
Mr. Finkel said, or to question from the table. He could stand and question from the table.
The court said, How does the defense feel about that?
Mr. Skirek said, To be perfectly honest, Your Honor, I much prefer to be at the podium.
The court said, Understood. Very well. We're going to get these microphones fixed. You may step down.
Recess.
The court said, Please be seated. Please have the jurors brought back in.
Jury present.
The court said, Please be seated. You may continue.
Mr. Skirek said, Thank you, Your Honor.
By Mr. Skirek.
Ms. Lee. Do you recall testifying yesterday that you met with representatives of the government on approximately 8 occasions before trial?
Yes, I saw him yesterday.
The court said, I want you to use the microphone when you're speaking in Mandarin as well as English. I'm saying that to the interpreter. Go ahead.
What do you mean by you saw him yesterday?
That's the question you asked me.
Ma'am, my question was, do you recall testifying that you met with representatives? Various representatives of the government on approximately 8 occasions before trial.
Yes, I did.
And some of those meetings were by phone, correct?
No.
Some of those meetings were virtual meetings, correct?
Virtual video.
Fair enough. Like Zoom, correct?
I don't know about Zoom.
Okay. But virtual meetings by video, whatever the tool was, right?
Yes.
And some of those meetings were in person, correct?
Mr. Horton said, Objection, Your Honor. We covered this yesterday at length.
The court said, You may answer.
Yes.
And do you remember speaking to representatives of the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission?
No.
And you spoke to members of the Department of Homeland Security, correct?
I saw somebody, but I'm not sure which department they came from.
Do you recall an interview that you gave in July of 2023, virtually? To agents of the Homeland Security investigation?
No, I didn't.
You don't recall?
I remember it was sometime in June.
So you recall the meeting, just you believe that the timing was in June of 2023, correct?
The court said, Is there an answer?
The interpreter said, Let me wait. Can I have the question again?
Mr. Skirek said, I believe there was an answer. If the court permits, we can read back the question and answer.
The court said, My recollection is that she said let me wait.
Mr. Skirek said, I thought that came after the answer, Your Honor. I could be wrong.
The court said, If the reporter would please read back the question and answer.
Record was read.
The court said, I'd like you to step up, please, counsel.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, I'd like to suggest, of course you do not have to take this suggestion, that you use simpler words. So instead of saying, Do you recall testifying yesterday, do you remember that in court yesterday you said?
Mr. Skirek said, I will do my best, Your Honor.
The court said, Thank you.
Continued on next page. In open court. By Mr. Skirek.
Let me try a little differently. Do you remember speaking with members of the Homeland Security Department in June of 2023?
No.
When do you believe you spoke to members of the Homeland Security Investigations Group?
June 2022.
Okay. Thank you. Do you recall or do you remember meeting with Mr. Horton from the government in April of 2023?
I don't recall the exact date.
Do you recall that it was in the spring of 2023?
Nope.
When do you think it was?
This year, 2024.
Do you recall meeting with Mr. Horton in May of 2024?
I believe I had 3 video contacts with somebody from government, but I don't recall the date.
Were those video contacts with the government in the spring of this year?
Yes.
Now, before we broke yesterday, I believe you were talking about some protests that you participated in. Do you recall that?
I do.
Am I right that in September of 2020, you participated in a protest in Los Angeles?
It was August 29, 2020.
Did it stretch into September of 2020?
No, August 29.
And the protests took place outside the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles, right?
Yes.
And the protests were of China's treatment of Hong Kong protesters during COVID, correct?
Can I have the question again?
You were protesting China's treatment of Hong Kong's protesters, correct?
Yes.
And the Himalaya Farms organized that protest, right?
The interpreter said, "Can the interpreter have that question again, interpreter?"
The court said, repeat the question.
The Himalaya Farms organized that protest, right?
Can I have the interpreter interpret the question again?
The interpreter said, "From the interpreter, I did not get which organization." The interpreter did not get that.
Mr. Skirik said, it's called the Himalaya Farms.
Guo 'cause the farms in the grassroots level, to participate actively.
Was Mr. Guo in LA for that protest?
He was not in Los Angeles. He was in his hotel.
Who was organizing in Los Angeles?
We responded to calls from Guo.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, move to strike as non-responsive.
The court said yes. The answer is stricken.
What person in Los Angeles, physically present in Los Angeles, was directing the protest?
Guo at the top level was giving instructions. On the lower level it was a huge organization. There was a person Wei Lihong belonged to the lower level.
Is that Sarah Wei?
Yes.
Was there someone named Michelle Peng in Los Angeles?
Her Chinese name is Feng Qingpeng.
The interpreter said, "Interpreter will spell as FENG, QING, PENG."
Mr. Skirik said, Can I ask the interpreter to please hold the microphone to his mouth? Michelle Peng is the same person that you just identified by their Mandarin name, is that correct?
There was somebody else.
Are you familiar with a person referred to as Michelle Peng?
Yes, I am.
And what is that person's Cantonese name or Mandarin name?
Feng Qingpeng.
The interpreter said, "I will spell FENG, QUING, last name PENG."
Okay. Going forward I'm going to refer to that person as Michelle Peng, okay?
I don't know what's her real name. They've been using their net names. Her net name was Wenlei.
Whether it's that name or the other name. Going forward, do you understand that I will refer to that person in my questioning as Michelle Peng?
Okay.
Thank you. Was Michelle Peng an organizer at the Phoenix Farm?
I would say she was an assistant of Wei Lihong.
And can we agree that going forward in my questioning I will refer to Wei Lihong as Sarah Wei?
Okay.
So Michelle Peng worked for Sarah Wei, correct?
Yes.
And you became suspicious, withdrawn. Do you recall that you became suspicious of Michelle Peng during the trip to LA?
Yes.
And that was because she was secretly taking pictures of demonstrators in LA, correct?
It was not her.
Why did you become suspicious of Michelle Peng during the LA trip?
For events that were experienced that I saw.
Can you please explain that further?
I mean, something happened during the demonstration.
And what was that?
Somebody told others that when they face the consulate, they should take off their mask for the purpose of taking pictures.
And was that Ms. Peng who said that?
I was not talking about Ms. Peng. I mean, somebody else were taking photos secretly.
Were you able to identify the person who was taking photos secretly?
Yes, I can. Even though the person was having the mask on, I could still identify him.
And was that person there as part of the protest?
No.
Who was the one who told protesters to take their mask off when they faced the consulate?
The person who took the photos.
Now, you testified before that you became suspicious of Michelle Peng, correct?
Yes.
And why was that?
She was leading the groups. She was representative of Sarah Wei.
What is it that she did at the protest to make you suspicious of her?
There were quite a lot of factors involved in this issue. Do you want me to tell you?
How about this, did, withdrawn? Was there anything that the protesters did that indicated to you that they might be planning to expose the protesters to the CCP?
Mr. Horton said, objection to form, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
So the people you were there protesting with. You had concerns that those people were not true movement members, correct?
The person was not a member of us. The person came from outside. He was the one who draws the pictures of the national flags for Guo Trial.
Mr. Skirek said, Your Honor moved to strike as non-responsive.
The court said, the answer is stricken.
Mr. Skirek said, can the court reporter please read back the question?
The record was read.
Yes.
So at the time in your mind you believed it was possible that fellow movement members were a fake, right?
Mr. Horton said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And in your mind did you believe it was possible that some of those people were CCP spies?
I did not have.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting, but Mr. Guo cannot hear that interpreter.
The court said, if the interpreter can hold the microphone close so everyone even in the back can hear what you're saying in Mandarin and in English.
The interpreter said, what about now?
The court said, why don't you say something?
The interpreter said, can interpreter ask the witness to repeat her answer?
The court said, is that loud enough?
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you, Your Honor.
The court said, all right. Yes, you may ask her to repeat her answer.
These two persons who were secretly taking the photos had connection with one of the leader. Michelle, of course, they had some connections.
Mr. Skirek said, move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
The court said, you said that you believed that some of the people were fake?
The witness said, I did not mean that.
Mr. Skirek said, Your Honor, I believe that wasn't the last question that was pending. The question that I asked was about CCP.
The court said, I'm going to strike my own question and the answer that was given.
Mr. Skirek said, thank you, Your Honor. Perhaps I could pose the question slightly differently. Based on your experience with the protest in LA, were you concerned that some of the protesters you were with were CCP spies?
I did not have suspicious, until the two persons started to taking photos secretly. One was CHUXINZE. The other one was CC.
The interpreter said, the interpreter lost part of the net name.
The court said, if you can ask her to repeat that then.
GPIPI, Guo knows the person.
Mr. Skirek said, Your Honor, move to strike the last portion of that answer.
Mr. Horton said, objection.
The court said, I'm going to strike the portion that begins with the word, Guo.
Mr. Skirek said, thank you, Your Honor. So it's fair to say that you did have suspicions after you observed what these two individuals did. Right.
Mr. Horton said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, I'm going to permit the question and the answer. Go ahead.
Yes.
The court said, were those two people part of the protest?
The witness said, no.
The court said, do you believe that they were pretending to be part of the protest?
The witness said, the two person did not participate in the protest. They came from somewhere else.
The court said, go ahead.
By Mr. Skirek.
But you met these people.
I did at the scene.
I'm sorry.
I did at the scene.
At the scene. Now let's talk about the Texas protest. Did certain behavior at the protest there concern you too?
Yes.
Now, you testified before that you advanced a significant amount of money for the Texas protest, correct?
I did not say I was given a lot of money. They owe me money.
When I say advanced, to be clear, I mean that you paid for things at the Texas protest, correct?
Yes.
And you were not reimbursed by the farm, correct?
No.
You received no money from the farm to repay you, correct?
I didn't.
And you were upset about that, right?
Yes.
And you advanced that money because Sarah Wei asked you to, right?
One lay.
Is that Sarah Wei?
Feng Qingping and somebody else. A new name XIAO, FENG, ZHU, another person SUN, WEI. RONG.
Okay. And you understood at the time that you paid for those expenses that Sarah Wei would reimburse you. Right.
The court said, do you mean pay her back?
Mr. Skirik said, thank you, Your Honor, for the suggestion. That Sarah Wei would pay you back.
All the three-person Sarah Wei stated that they would pay me back. They would pay me back several days after the event.
And they didn't do that, right?
Yes.
Now, you stopped investing in any projects with Mr. Guo by the end of 2020, is that correct?
Yes.
And by 2021, you became a critic of many people in the movement, correct?
Yes.
And, in fact, beginning in February of 2021, you posted live streams that were critical of certain people in the movement, correct?
I used the media of GTV, or I would say Guo TV.
Continued on next page. By Mr. Skirik.
Thank you. Before you live streamed in February of 2021, no one from the movement attacked you for not participating in the movement, correct?
I don't think I understand the question very much.
Okay. Let me try again. By the end of 2020, you stopped participating in movement activities, right?
Yes.
When you stopped participating in movement activities, no one attacked you for not participating. Correct?
We did not have a physical office, we only used all our conveniences. If I did not post my communications online, nobody would see me.
My question is, you weren't criticized for not participating, right?
I'm sorry, I still don't understand. I don't understand. What do you mean by criticize of me?
You testified that by the end of 2020, you stopped participating in movement activities.
The activity was just online. If you don't post online, nobody knows that you were active.
Okay. So no one bothered you when you weren't active, right?
We could not see each other, so who would bother me?
So the answer is no.
I don't know how to answer this question.
Okay.
It's just an online scam. If I did not go online, nobody would approach me.
Fair enough. Now, when you did go online in February of 2021, you accused people of swindling you, correct?
Yes.
You pointed to specific individuals, right?
Yes.
Including Mulan.
Yes.
Including Sarah Wei.
Yes.
And in these live streams, you were critical of the offline people that you had met in person, right?
Yes.
Because you didn't like their behavior, correct?
It was not that I disliked them. I mean, their activity was wrong.
Fair enough. And it was wrong because you felt they tricked you into paying for expenses on the protest trips, right?
Not totally correct.
That was among the reasons, right? That was part of the reason.
Yes.
Okay. And you posted or streamed this criticism many times, right?
From 40 to 41.
Mr. Skirik said, I'm sorry, could the interpreter repeat that? Interpreter SHI phone, from 40 to 41. I'm sorry, what do those numbers refer to?
I used Guo TV to criticize those offline people, including Mulan and some others. The times were from 40 to 41.
So 40, it was done 40 or 41 times.
Yes, the live stream, 40 to 41.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification. And when you did this, you weren't kicked out of the movement, right?
Yes.
Am I correct that you were not kicked out of the movement? Mr. Skirik said, and if we can ask that the witness say correct or incorrect.
Mr. Horton said, objection.
Mr. Skirik said, I'm not sure how else to do it, Your Honor.
The court said, you may ask her to answer correct or incorrect. You may ask her that.
The previous question is withdrawn. If you can please answer correct or incorrect, after you live streamed 40 or 41 times. You weren't kicked out of the movement, correct?
I was kicked out of Guo TV.
And when did that happen?
I don't recall exactly. I would say from March 20th to March 21st. Interpreter Lian Wang, Your Honor. Can we interpreter switch?
The court said yes. Interpreter Lian Wang, okay.
Okay. Now, a time came when you reached out to Mr. Guo directly about the issue of repayment of expenses. Right.
Incorrect.
You never spoke to Mr. Guo about the reimbursement issue.
I had speak with him regarding the reimbursement. But I had never talked with him about the refund and return the money back.
Mr. Skirik said, I'm sorry, can I just have the interpreter repeat that answer? I didn't catch it all.
The interpreter said, okay. I'll repeat. I had speak with him regarding the reimbursement money. But I had never talked with him about the refund money.
So you don't recall talking to him at all about the refund?
Which exactly refund do you mean?
We discussed before the fact that you were not paid back for the expenses during the protest trips.
Correct.
And do you recall discussing that with Mr. Guo?
Yes.
Okay. And am I correct that Mr. Guo identified people in the movement who he believed could help you? Right.
Would you please repeat your question?
Mr. Guo identified Mulan as someone who could help you with getting paid back, correct?
Yes, of course he knew.
Mr. Skirik said, just one moment, Your Honor.
Counsel conferred.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, may we have a brief sidebar?
The court said yes.
Continued on next page. At sidebar.
Ms. Shrofa said, I apologize, Your Honor. But I was told that the translation of the last question and the last answer was totally inappropriate. There are interpreters sitting in the courtroom. Maybe one of them could verify the translation was correct. I don't know. I don't speak the language, so I have no way to verify if Mr. Guo's concern is correct or not.
The court said, all right. So let's have both of these interpreters step up.
Ms. Shrofa said, sorry about that.
Mr. Finkel said, should we just go back to the other interpreter?
The court said, I want to hear from them.
Interpreter present.
The court said, hi there. What is your name? Interpreter Afonger. The court said, and what have you been doing during this trial? Interpreter SHI Fong. I've been doing simultaneous interpreter for the Southern District Court of New York to provide the simultaneous translation to Mr. Guo, the defendant. The court said, have you also been listening to the interpreters who have been interpreting for the witness? Interpreter SHI Fong. Yes, I have. The court said, do you consider that the interpreter interpreted the last question and answer correctly? Interpreter SHI Fong. I do not. The court said, can you tell me what you believe was incorrect about the interpretation? Interpreter SHI Fong. Yes. It was incorrect. The court said, I'm asking you why was it incorrect? Interpreter SHI Fong. Because after I talked to my colleague, where's my colleague? So can you get here? I'm sorry. After we, Interpreter Zhuo Huang. Your Honor, to be honest. The court said, actually, I'd like to speak with her first and then you. Actually, I'd like you to step back.
Interpreter Tuo Huang not present. Interpreter SHI Fong. The part 1 heard that the first time she translated this question, she didn't translate the word movement. The question, I believe, is Mr. Guo had identified people from the movement. She just translate that word as a general crowd instead of movement, general population instead of movement. She didn't say the movement. The second time when she translate the question, she translate as, can Mr. Guo identify people move forward? I believe that's what and that's not what the attorney asked at all.
The court said, okay. Interpreter SHI Fong. And she omit the person Mulan in the attorney's question. I did not hear the word Mulan in her translation. The court said, all righty. Feel step back.
Ms. Shrofa said, so, Your Honor, that is what Mr. Guo raised to me. He said that the interpreter never said the word Mulan in the question.
The court said, I even noticed that myself.
Mr. Finkel said, so did the government.
The court said, okay, so we're going to have to excuse her. What about the other gentleman? Is he in the room?
Mr. Horton said, He's still here, Your Honor.
Mr. Finkel said, yeah. We can just go back with him. That would be the government's proposal.
The court said, okay.
Mr. Finkel said, he's right there in the back of the courtroom.
Ms. Shrofa said, maybe, Your Honor, may I make a suggestion?
The court said yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, maybe we can just have the interpreters who are sitting and doing the official translation. One of them work as a Czech interpreter. In one of my other cases, the Judge Moss, had a Czech interpreter so that if some interpretation was going wrong, they would alert the court. We can try that. I don't know.
The court said, I am not familiar with that procedure. It's not one that I want to adopt.
Ms. Shrofa said, okay.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor. One question that might be helpful as we consider next steps is how much longer does Mr. Skirik have left?
Mr. Skirik said, it's very difficult to tell, Your Honor. Depends on how quickly we can get through this. With an English speaker, I would have been done probably half an hour ago. But it's just very slow going because of the interpretation.
Mr. Finkel said, the government's view is we've sort of covered a lot of this ground yesterday. That's our view. But, I mean, do you think you have an hour left? 15 minutes?
Mr. Skirik said, Mr. Finkel, I'm not trying to be cute. I can't tell you how long it's going to take because it depends on how difficult the translation issues are.
Ms. Shrofa said, maybe you could go to the interpreter and ask him if he can work without swapping out.
Mr. Finkel said, yeah, that's fine.
The court said yes. Well, I'm going to direct him to do that.
Mr. Finkel said, even better.
The court said, but I do need for us to call the interpreter's office to let this individual know that she will not be interpreting any further. I'm going to direct. Actually, let's have him come up.
Mr. Finkel said, so, Your Honor, with defense counsel here, that interpreter, as is required. Because we are not permitted to use the court interpreters, is someone we ordered. So because that's what the requirement is. But we'll note that we shouldn't use that interpreter in the future. Although I don't think we have any other Mandarin language speakers. We might have one or two, but probably not. We'll see.
Interpreter Lien Wang present.
The court said yes. I'm going to need for you to do the interpreting for the rest of the day by yourself. Interpreter Lien Wang, okay. The court said okay.
Mr. Finkel said, thank you. Interpreter Lien Wang, right now from now?
The court said yes. Excuse me, sir. If you would just let your colleague know that that is what we're going to do. Interpreter Lien Wang, okay. The court said thank you.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
Mr. Skirik said, can we please have the court reporter read back the last question?
Record read.
The court said, I would like the interpreter to interpret that question, please.
That happened 6 months later. Interpreter Lien Wang, Your Honor, can I ask to speak with you?
The court said yes. Step up, counsel.
Continued on next page. At sidebar, Interpreter Lien Wang. Since the other interpreter has left, I believe she made some mistake in previous 2 or 3 questions when she took over, since she has left.
The court said, is there any application before the court?
Ms. Shrofa said, yes, Your Honor. We would like a break. We need to go back and look at the questions that were posed before and repose them.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, the government would submit Mr. Skirik can just ask those questions again. And the government doesn't object to striking the answers with respect to the interpreter. I think there are just 3 or 4 questions.
The court said, well, I think that we need this gentleman to identify which questions were misinterpreted.
Mr. Finkel said, yes. I think there were about 3 or 4 questions that were posed through that interpreter. And so the government doesn't object to an application, if the defense makes it, to strike those answers and those questions. And we can essentially, Mr. Skirik can go 2 sentences back in his outline.
Ms. Shrofa said, but we need to know the mistakes.
The court said, we don't know which questions and which answers.
Mr. Finkel said, understood.
The court said, so we are going to have to take a break. And he will take a look at the transcript and let us know which questions and which answers were not interpreted properly.
Mr. Finkel said, understood.
In open court.
The court said, members of the jury, we're going to take a pause. Remember that you're not permitted to discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't let anyone discuss the case in your presence. In addition, do not read, listen, or watch anything about the case. I'll call you back as soon as I can.
Jury not present.
The court said, ma'am, you may step out. I'm going to call you back soon. Do not discuss the case.
Witness not present.
The court said, but I would like the interpreter to remain. Would the interpreter step forward, please? And so I would like you, along with the attorneys working along with the court reporter, to go back over the questions and answers that were given during this cross-examination this morning, and to identify where you believe that there were incorrect interpretations. You'll do that with the attorneys. We'll take a break.
Recess.
The court said, please be seated. Have the parties reached an agreement with regard to how to go forward?
Mr. Skirek said, yes. I think we've identified where the mistranslation started, so I know where to go back to. Your Honor, to put the question again to the witness.
The court said, okay. So I won't be hearing objections to the resking of these questions, correct?
Mr. Horton said, that's right, Your Honor.
The court said, all right. Then please have the jurors brought in.
Continued on next page. Jury present.
The court said, you may be seated.
Witness present.
The court said, and you may continue your questions.
Mr. Skirek said, thank you, Your Honor.
The court said, remember that you're still under oath.
The witness said, okay. Bye, Mr. Skirek.
Now. Mr. Guo identified people in the movement for you who could help to get you paid back for the expenses, right?
I don't quite understand someone in the movement.
How about someone?
Counsel conferred.
By movement, I mean someone in the Phoenix farm, right?
I believe the context is wrong. There's no Phoenix.
Did Mr. Guo point you to people he believed could help get you paid back?
He did not point that out. He let me choose whom could pay me back, and he gave me two choices.
Okay. Did one of those people include Mulan?
Chongdao and Mulan. Interpreter Lian Wang, by Chongdao, mean Long Island.
Is that Long Island, David?
Yes, Shaoqi Dong.
Mr. Skirek said, could I just ask the interpreter to please raise the microphone? Interpreter SHI phone, sorry. And is that person also known as Long Island David?
No.
Is that person known by any other name?
Chongdao Ge. In English it means Long Island brother.
Long Island brother, correct. Just to make sure I heard it.
Correct.
And I'm correct, aren't I? That Mr. Guo also asked for the names of other people who needed to be paid back expenses.
In English, no.
Were there other people you were aware of besides you who needed to be paid back expenses?
Yes.
Did you discuss that with Mr. Guo?
I talked to him about it.
And you don't know what he did with that information, right?
I don't know what he did.
And you never asked him to personally pay you back, right?
The witness said, can I answer?
The court said, go ahead.
Mr. Guo told me over the phone that he could use the money in his own pocket to pay me back. I said no. It's not necessary. I also told him there are other people who would need to be paid back. I hope they could be paid back in normal way.
Okay. Now, you testified earlier that by the end of 2020, you believed that GTV was a scam, right?
Yes.
So that was your belief at the time that you spoke to Mr. Guo withdrawn. So that was your belief at the time you communicated with Mr. Guo in February of 2021, right?
Yes.
But you didn't say that to him when you spoke with him, right?
You mean my suspicion?
You didn't tell him your suspicion when you communicated with him in February of 2021, right?
I was afraid of telling him that.
So the answer is yes, correct?
Yes.
You didn't tell him that you were concerned that you might not get your money back, right?
I say that. By the way, whom did I talk to?
I'm sorry. Can I have that answer, interpreter SHI phone? The witness was asking you the question.
Can you slow down? Interpreter SHI phone, she's saying, can you slow down?
Of course. So just to be clear, you didn't express those concerns to him when you spoke to him, right?
I did not say that.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, I'm looking at the time. It may be an appropriate place to stop for the lunch break.
The court said, all righty. So we will take our half-hour break now, members of the jury. You'll return back to the courtroom at noon. Remember that you're not allowed to discuss the case. You're not allowed to read, view, or listen to anything about the case from any source whatsoever.
Jury not present. Continued on next page.
The court said, Please be seated. Is there anything before we start at noon?
Mr. Finkel said, Yes, Your Honor. The witness is here.
The court said, Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You should step out, ma'am. Don't discuss the case.
Witness not present.
The court said, Go ahead.
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, I'm reluctant to raise this at all. But the government is being mindful of what Your Honor instructed counsel in your robing room last week. Last night, and this morning we told members of the defense team that our next witness is traveling from Australia, and that our intention is to get her back home on Friday, okay, if not beforehand. We also have another witness, a civilian, who's here from Texas and traveling next week, and we're hopeful to get him on and off the stand by the end of this week. Defense counsel knows this. I talked to one of the members of the defense team this morning. I understand that there are issues with this particular witness and interpreter and technology. They are outside of everyone's control. When Your Honor permitted counsel to review the transcript, I made a suggestion to one of the defense team members as to how to make the process more efficient. And the response that I received was it's almost as if the government has a witness scheduling issue. Somewhat of a sarcastic tone to it. I'm reluctant to even raise this at all, I really am. Because this is the kind of thing that the parties should just deal with and work with each other on. The point, Your Honor, that I'm making is that we believe there is sufficient time for the direct and cross of these two witnesses, and for this witness to be finished such that their travel can be maintained. And so, Your Honor, what I would ask Your Honor to consider, okay, and with the understanding that some of what happened today is outside of the parties' control, but also with the understanding that some of the cross-examination has in other witnesses has been considerably long. I would ask Your Honor to consider if it's okay with the court and okay with the jury, and I mentioned this to one of the defense team members this morning, that perhaps tomorrow and, if necessary, on Friday we sit a little bit longer. And I can also tell the court, again, reluctantly, that the government is behind where it expected to be in terms of the progress of this case. Several days behind, to be completely candid with you. We are juggling our witnesses and scheduling. We have witnesses coming from outside of the country next week, which is presenting serious logistical obstacles. But we are doing our job, and we are managing our witnesses and the jury's time and Your Honor's time as best as we can. And so the application from the government is, 1, to please consider sitting a little bit later tomorrow and Friday, if necessary, and 2, to just be aware of, again, with reluctance, Your Honor, what appears to be some sort of tactic, I don't know how else to say it, and I'm sorry to say it, to delay this witness or other witnesses in light of the travel concerns that we communicated in good faith to the defense.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, first of all, we have no issue whatsoever with the government's application to sit later tomorrow and Friday if the government believes that that's going to ease the travel issues that its witnesses have. We're more than happy to do that to accommodate. And if the government has other suggestions, we're open to those as well. I think, in our view, I'm not sure how anyone who's been watching the cross-examination of this witness could believe anything other than that it is a slog through the mud because of the communication issues and the witness's inability or reluctance to directly answer questions. As Your Honor knows, you've had to strike numerous statements from the record, both yesterday and today, because the witness is non-responsive. That is clearly not the fault of the defense, nor is it the fault of the prosecution. So if what we have here is scheduling delays that are being exacerbated by this particular witness going now, that certainly can't be held against the defense in any way, shape, or form. And clearly there's nothing intentional about it. And frankly, that suggestion, I think, I know from our perspective I think that's off base, to put it mildly. So we're happy to work with the prosecution to accommodate the witnesses. Mr. Finkel did not raise this with me before he raised it with the court, perhaps he raised it with someone else. I'm not sure. But we're happy to try to work out the schedule and accommodate the witnesses' travel.
The court said, so I have handled hundreds of trials, and I've concluded that the cross-examination here, putting aside technical difficulties, putting aside this witness's limitations, the cross-examination has been atypically slow, and I would like you to be more efficient in your cross-examination. I'm going to ask the jurors if they can remain later. Would it help if we also remained later today?
Mr. Finkel said, "Yes, Your Honor."
The court said, all right. I will ask them. Of course, you know, they've planned their lives around the schedule that I set and we'll just see.
Mr. Finkel said, "We understand that, Your Honor." And with respect to Mr. Skirek, I understand what he's saying and I get it. I mean, I understand there's been difficulties with this particular witness. What I was mentioning was a comment that was made when we were checking the transcript, which suggested to me that it was part of some broader effort. But I hope very strongly that we are all past that. And I just want to be completely clear. As I have been to many members of the defense team, as all four of us have been, we want to work efficiently, responsibly, and professionally with the defense to promote an efficient presentation of evidence for the jury to decide. That's the government's goal.
Mr. Skirek said, we obviously share that, Your Honor.
The court said, all right then. So we will restart at noon.
Mr. Finkel said, thank you, Your Honor.
Luncheon recess. Continued on next page. Afternoon session 12 p.m. Jury not present.
The court said, please be seated. Would you have the jurors brought in please before the witness?
Mr. Finkel said, Your Honor, I don't believe the interpreters are here.
The court said, where are they? You may be seated.
Jury present.
The court said, please be seated. Members of the jury, unfortunately we have fallen behind in our schedule, and I'm trying to figure out a way to catch up. So I'm going to ask whether I can add for today, tomorrow, and Friday an hour to your day. I know you've planned out your schedules, and I know that it's possible that you might not be able to accommodate me on this. One way of doing it could be that we go from 9:30 to noon, take a half an hour, and then go until 3:15. Is that something that you would be able to do?
Juror said, today, tomorrow, and Friday?
The court said, I understand alternate one is not able to do that, not today nor tomorrow or Friday.
Juror said, I have a shoot shortly after court.
The court said, you have an obligation after court?
Juror said, yes.
The court said, okay. What about coming in at 9 a.m.? Would that be something?
Juror said, I could do that.
The court said, how late could you stay?
Juror said, 3. I have a video shoot in the city, so I already have clients lined up for the rest of the week.
The court said, so you're saying starting at 9, and we'd have our break, let us say at 11:30 to 12, and then we could go to 3 p.m.?
Juror said, that works for me if it works for everybody else.
The court said, anybody that cannot do that? So starting tomorrow will start at 9, and you're leaving at 3. But it's for these 3 days. So, thank you, I appreciate your flexibility. Alrighty. Let's have the witness return to the stand. Remember, ma'am, that you're still under oath. You may continue the inquiry.
Mr. Skirek said, thank you, Your Honor.
By Mr. Skirek.
Ms. Lee, do you recall that at one point members of the farm offered to pay you back for the expenses?
Can I talk now?
The court said yes. Go ahead. One moment, if you could just aim your microphone a little bit more to your left. Both of you, because of the feedback. Go ahead.
First, Wei Li Hong, W-E-I-L-I-H-O-N-G. Second, S-U-N, Third, Wei Lei, W-E-I-L-E-I. Fourth, Wen Yang, W-E-N-Y-A-N-G. Fifth, Sherry. Sixth, and Hong, A-N-H-O-N-G. Seventh, Guo Xiaotian, Guo-Xiaotian. Eighth, Mulan, M-U-L-A-N. Last one, Tai Wang Daniu, D-A-N-I-U.
Did time come when you declined to let withdrawn? Did a time come when you declined to allow them to pay you back?
Yes.
In fact, you declined because you wanted to stay involved until, according to you, the U.S. government could help recover the money, right?
It's not correct.
Do you recall telling Mr. Horton that when you met with him in March of this year?
I said because they wanted me to sign an agreement and I did not want to do that.
My question was, do you recall telling Mr. Horton when you met with him in March of this year that you declined because you wanted to stay involved so the U.S. government could help you get your money back?
I did not say I was expecting U.S. government to pay me back. I was saying I wanted to get the money back through the U.S. government. I said I did not want to take the money from the hands of scammers.
So you declined, correct?
I declined because he wanted me to sign an agreement.
And that was in 2021, right?
2021.
Now, let's talk about your H-Coin investment. You invested $5,700 in H-Coin, right?
Which entity?
You testified yesterday that you purchased H-Coin, right?
Yes.
And that was for $5,700, right?
Yes.
And that was in July of 2021, right?
No.
When was it?
June.
So by June of 2021, you believed that any investment offered by Mr. Guo was a scam, right?
Yes.
So at the time you bought H-Coin, you didn't expect to make any profit on it, right?
Yes.
And you assumed you would lose the money, right?
No.
You thought you were going to get the money back.
2 weeks after that I asked the receiver of the money to return the money.
Understood. That wasn't my question. My question was, before you purchased the H-Coin, you assumed you wouldn't get that money back, right, since it was a scam.
I was coerced into purchasing that.
But you didn't lose money, right?
Correct, I lost $60.
On a transaction fee, ma'am.
Yes.
And you asked for a refund.
Yes.
And you got it, right?
Yes.
And Miles Guo didn't attack you for asking for a refund, right?
The interpreter said, "Can the interpreter have the question again?"
Miles Guo didn't attack you for asking for a refund, did he?
I did not send the money to Miles Guo. I sent to somebody else in the farm.
Right. But your testimony, right, is that Miles Guo is behind all of this, right?
Yes.
And he didn't criticize you after you asked for a refund, right?
I barred him from my social media.
Are you aware that Miles Guo criticized you for asking for H-Coin refund?
I never saw him.
Is the answer no, ma'am?
Mr. Horton said, "Objection, Your Honor. We've been through this."
The court said, "Are you asking me to strike the answer? What is the request?"
Mr. Skirik said, "I would move to strike that answer as non-responsive."
Mr. Horton said, "There's a pending objection to the question as asked and answered."
Mr. Skirik said, "The previous answer was not responsive."
The court said, "The previous answer was not responsive, so I'm going to strike that, as well as the recent answer which is non-responsive. Please read back the question. I'm asking the reporter."
Record was read.
Can I have the last question again?
Mr. Skirik said, "Your Honor, may I ask, before you translate, sir? Can we just ensure that the instruction from the court is also being translated?" I'll just ask the court to make sure the instruction from you is also being interpreted back to the witness.
The interpreter said, interpreter did.
The court said, okay.
I don't know that.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about G clubs just for a moment. You testified on direct that you bought a $20,000 club's membership, right?
Which entity?
G clubs.
Yes.
Now, you testified on direct that you didn't get anything for your G club's membership, right?
I don't think I understand the question.
Did you testify that you didn't get anything for the money that you spent on G clubs?
Yes.
You understood before you bought it that it offered a discount on certain items, right?
What do you mean by discount?
It allowed you to pay less than some other people.
Yes. The member for G Club was from 10 to 50,000.
Okay. How much of a discount?
10% of 10,000, 20% on 20,000, 30% on 30,000, 40% on 40,000 and 50% on 50,000.
And you purchased the $20,000 membership giving you a 20% discount, right?
The interpreter said, Your Honor, interpreter need to verify some details.
When you purchase the membership of the G Club, you can get some discount when you purchase from G Fashion. The discount applied on that operation.
Did you ever try to use that discount?
Never.
Am I right that one of the benefits of G Clubs was that it allowed members to live stream on GTV?
No.
Could anyone live stream on GTV?
I believe there was some misunderstanding in your question. Can I still answer your question?
Sure. One of the benefits of G Clubs was that it gave you a certain amount of hours to live stream on GTV, right?
Everyone can get online of GTV. As GTV member, you can apply your card to live stream for 2 hours.
And that card was a G Clubs card, right?
There's only a name. There's no physical card at all.
Ma'am, you raised the idea of a card, right?
Each of us had a number. It's indicated as G Club card.
Understood. And it was that number that gave you the ability to live stream on GTV, right?
This counsel does not understand the G Clubs.
Mr. Skirek said, move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
The court said, the answer is stricken.
Ms. Lee, without your membership to G Club, you couldn't have live stream on GTV, right?
I want to talk to the judge.
The court said, ma'am, the way that it works is that the lawyer asks the questions and you must give the answers.
The witness said, okay, but I don't think I get the point of his question.
The court said, can you rephrase the question?
You testified that you had a G Club's number, right?
Yes.
And in order to do live streams on GTV, you had to use that G Club's number, right?
Still not correct. You did not ask the question right.
Mr. Skirek said, move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
The court said, the answer is stricken. Ma'am, did you receive certain benefits as a member of G Clubs?
The witness said, no.
The only way you could live stream on GTV was using your G Club's ID, right?
I was able to do live stream for 2 hours.
As a G Club's member?
Yes.
Thank you. And you used that 2 hours of live stream, right?
I could use 2 hours from 40 to 41 days.
As you testified before, you did use those.
I would not say it was used.
You live streamed, didn't you, ma'am? You testified to that earlier today.
I got online every day, but I don't think you were right in a way answering these questions. Can you ask the question in a different way?
I think I've asked the question multiple different ways. My question now is, you testified earlier today that you live streamed on GTV, right?
Mr. Horton said, objection, Your Honor. This question has been asked and answered several times.
The court said, I will allow her to answer this question.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, you testified that you purchased your G Club's membership on November 9th of 2020, right?
I don't recall the exact date. It's sometime like that.
Let's pull up what's in evidence as Government Exhibit VH9. Ms. Lee. Do you see the document in front of you?
Let me take a look at it. Yes, I saw it before.
And you can see that this shows that the membership was purchased in November of 2020, right?
Yes.
And do you recall seeing the G Clubs withdrawn? Do you recall seeing Mr. Guo's video announcing the launch of G Clubs?
Yes, I saw it.
Okay. And can we please just briefly pull up Government Exhibit C-148, V1 in evidence? Ma'am. While we're doing that, did you watch the video when it first came out?
I was in Texas. The time was October when I saw Mr. Guo's video about the G Clubs.
Can we please briefly play the clip? And I ask the witness to identify this as the video that she's referring to.
Media played.
Ma'am, did you recognize that audio recording as being from the launch of G Clubs?
Yes, I do.
Now, you testified yesterday that you took out a mortgage on your house so that you could invest in GTV. Right.
Yes.
And you first learned as you testified to yesterday about GTV in April of 2020, correct?
I did not get the question clearly. Can you give me the date again?
You testified that you first learned about the GTV investment opportunity in April of 2020.
Yes.
Now, ma'am, isn't it true that you took out the mortgage on your home in February of 2020?
Yes.
So you didn't even know about the GTV investment opportunity when you took out the mortgage on your home. Right.
After the Lunar New Year of 2020, Guo had been promoting the G Club, the GTV, claiming that was a new media.
Mr. Skirik said, move to strike as non-responsive, Your Honor.
The court said, the answer is stricken.
Mr. Horton said, objection.
Ma'am, when you testified that you took out a mortgage in order to buy GTV, you were lying, weren't you?
Everything I say was true. Guo had been saying that he would set up a GTV from some other people.
You told us before, yesterday and again today. And then again about 30 seconds ago that the first time you heard about the GTV investment opportunity was in April of 2020. Right.
Not correct. You interpreted it wrong.
Mr. Skirik said, Your Honor, may we have a brief sidebar?
The court said yes.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I apologize, but I think the translator is mixing up GTV and G Clubs. In the questions that he is translating, he's not translating GTV as GTV and G Club as G Club. Mr. Skirik may want to move on anyway, but I think there is a jumble. It's not a translation jumble. I think the translator is just not appreciating the distinction between G Club and GTV.
The court said, why is it that you think that?
Ms. Shrofa said, because I can hear GTV and G Club. That much I can understand, and I think I'm right.
Mr. Finkel said, this is a rare thing to say, but I agree, Your Honor. And so maybe Mr. Skirik can clarify for the interpreter. My question is about G Club. And then ask the question of the interpreter.
Mr. Skirik said, maybe we can bring the interpreter over to make that point.
Ms. Shrofa said, may I just confer with him? May I confer with my colleague?
The court said yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, eventually they all agree with me, Your.
Mr. Finkel said, let's not go that far. Please write that honor down.
Pause.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, it might make sense for us to just tell the translator that G Clubs, GTV, investment and private placement investment are all 4 different phrases, and he should be mindful of those. Or we can just hope he will be mindful and leave it up to whoever was.
Mr. Finkel said, there's a difference between G Club and GTV, and I think that should be pointed out for the translator. Investment, private placement. That might be different in her mind, because I think Ms. Lee thinks it's all one investment for Mr. Guo.
Ms. Shrofa said, what he's translating, I just want him to translate the words accurately. I'm not suggesting the answer.
The court said, I'm going to ask him to come over. I just wanted to point out that G Club is one entity. GTV is a different entity. And so if you'll be careful to make sure that you're accurately.
The interpreter said, okay. GTV. G Club. Okay.
Mr. Finkel said, how much more does defense counsel have?
Mr. Skirrick said, very little.
Court said, oh good.
Continued on next page. In open court.
Mr. Skirrick said, no further questions.
The court said, okay. Redirect?
Mr. Horton said, no further questions, Your Honor.
The court said, thank you very much. You may step down.
Witness excused.
The court said, you may call your next witness.
Mr. Ferguson said, the United States calls Yali.
YALI, called as a witness by the government, having been duly sworn, testified as follows.
The court said, please state your name and spell it.
The witness said, Yali, YALI.
The court said, I need for you to speak into the microphone, to speak up so that even the people in the back can hear you.
The witness said, my name is Yili.
The court said, I need for you to speak louder than that. Please be seated. Draw the microphone close.
The witness said, okay. My name is Yili.
The court said, you can sit down. Bring the microphone close to you. You may inquire.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I wasn't sure if she was sworn in.
The court said, yes, she was just sworn. Go ahead.
Direct examination. By Mr. Ferguson.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ferguson.
Is English your native language?
No.
If you don't understand something, please let us know, okay?
Okay.
What country do you live in?
Australia.
What do you do for work?
Accountant.
And if you can, Ms. Lee, I'd ask you to try to keep your voice up.
Okay.
Were you ever a supporter of Miles Guo?
Yes.
What other names, if any, did you use as a Miles Guo supporter?
Mulan Shaoqing.
What did other supporters call you?
Mulan.
What did Guo call you?
Mulan's sister.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, could we please play for the jury what's in evidence as Government Exhibit C40V?
Media played.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can pause there. Ms. Lee, who do you understand to be referenced by Mulan?
That's me.
You can take that down, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Lee. You said you were a supporter of Miles Guo. Looking around the courtroom, do you see Miles Guo here today?
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, we'll stipulate that Miles Guo is seated to my left, Your Honor. Thank you.
The court said, okay.
Ms. Lee, at a high level, what did you do for Miles Guo?
I'm the leader of G Translator and Iron Blood Group member and the director of Rule of Law Foundation.
And at a high level, what was G Translators?
G Translators is kind of a farm. It's volunteers group doing translation jobs for Miles Guo.
What was your position at G Translators?
I'm the leader in charge of this group.
You mentioned the Iron Blood Group. At a high level, what was the Iron Blood Group?
Iron Blood Group is the highest level of the Himalayas Alliance.
Who picked its members?
Miles Guo.
Was he a member?
Yes, he also one of the member.
Who, if anyone, gave instructions to the Iron Blood Group about investments?
Miles Guo.
Who gave you instructions about investments?
Miles Guo.
Who controlled investments related to the farms?
Miles Guo.
Ms. Lee, when you participated in the investment projects, did you believe in them?
Yes, 100%.
What is your understanding of them now?
It's a scam.
When you were a supporter of Miles Guo's movement, what was your view of the movement at that time?
At that time this movement is for China Democracy Movement. Our goal is to taking down CCP and build a new China, have freedom, rule of law and democracy.
What is your view of Miles Guo's movement now?
It's a scam.
Did you invest yourself?
Yes.
And have you?
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, I'm sorry. The question was not complete.
The court said, "Did you complete your question?"
Did you invest yourself, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection."
The court said, "Are you asking whether she invested in her personal capacity?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Correct, Your Honor." Did you yourself invest in investments that Miles Guo promoted?
Yes.
Have you ever helped receive and transfer investor money as part of working for Miles Guo?
Yes.
Did you ever spend investor money on yourself?
No, never.
On your family?
No, never.
Why not?
Because that's the investor's money, not my money.
If you had known that Miles Guo spent investor money on himself and his family, would you have invested yourself?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
If you had known that Miles Guo spent investor money on himself and his family, would you have invested yourself?
No.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor. It assumes facts not in evidence."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
No.
If you had known that, would you have helped him with these investment projects?
No.
If you had known that, would you have been a part of the movement?
No.
So you said you live in Australia?
Yes.
When did you come to the United States?
About 4 days ago.
After you traveled to the United States, were you appointed an attorney?
Yes.
And did the government offer you an agreement?
Yes.
What sort of agreement?
Non-prosecution agreement.
What's your understanding about what a non-prosecution agreement is?
I need to tell the truth and provide evidence, go to meeting if required, do the testimony for crime.
In exchange for that, what has the government promised to do?
Not prosecute.
And generally speaking, what prior conduct has the government promised they won't prosecute you for?
I need to tell all the truth.
And what prior conduct?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor. That's not responsive and I move to strike."
The court said, "The answer is stricken. If you can rephrase the question."
What prior conduct, Ms. Lee, is the subject of your non-prosecution agreement?
I need to tell the truth.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Same objection, Your Honor, and same application."
The court said, "The answer is non-responsive. It is stricken."
What did you do that the government won't prosecute you for, Ms. Lee?
I need to tell the truth and provide evidence and go to the meeting, go do testimony.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, same objection, and same request that the response be stricken."
The court said, "The objection is sustained. The response is stricken."
Ms. Lee, I understand what you are required to do.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection. That's not a question."
The court said, "I'm waiting for the question. Go ahead."
I'm just trying to ask, what did you do in the past that is the subject of the non-prosecution agreement? What conduct does it cover?
Because I involve in Miles Guo's activities.
What is your understanding as to whether the non-prosecution agreement protects you from a prosecution for perjury, obstruction of justice, or making false statements if you lie here today?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection."
The court said, "Overruled. You may answer."
No.
If you were to lie here, could the government tear up your non-prosecution agreement?
Yes.
Could you then be charged for your conduct?
Yes.
Could the statements you made to the government be used against you?
Yes.
And aside from the non-prosecution agreement, has the government made you any promises?
No.
Ms. Lee, were you ever arrested?
No.
Did you come to the United States a few days ago voluntarily or involuntarily?
Voluntarily.
Did the FBI assist you in entering the country?
Yes.
Are you staying here permanently or leaving after your testimony?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, these are all leading questions. I object because it's direct."
The court said, "We can do it the very, very slow way, or I can permit some degree of leading."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Fair enough, Your Honor."
Did you travel here? I'm sorry, Ms. Lee. Are you staying in the United States permanently or going back to Australia after your testimony?
Back to Australia.
Did you travel here alone or with others?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to relevance.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Did you travel here alone or with others?
With my daughter.
What, if any, law enforcement traveled with you?
Yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to the leading.
The court said, did any law enforcement travel with you?
The witness said, yes.
To your understanding, who paid for your flight and your daughter's flight to the United States?
U.S. government.
And who paid for your and your daughter's hotel in the United States?
U.S. government.
Do you know who paid for Australian law enforcement's flight and hotel?
I don't know.
Ms. Lee, how old is your daughter?
11.
Has the FBI watched your daughter while you were in meetings with the government?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection, relevance. Your Honor, may we have a sidebar?
The court said, okay.
Continued on next page. At the sidebar.
The court said, how much more of this background?
Mr. Ferguson said, not very much, Your Honor. I'm just covering the areas of bias standard with a witness like this who is sort of a cooperator in the case to cover this briefly. I'll move on shortly.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, there's no relevance of her traveling with her 11-year-old daughter. There's no relevance to her age being part of anything before this jury. There's no relevance at all. I can understand relevance about who paid the flight, sure, who's reimbursing it, sure. But who she traveled with is not relevant in terms of the daughter. And who and what her age is also not relevant. The defense is now in a position it did not see itself in. I don't need to cross somebody whose daughter is accompanying them. Now I have to follow into that. So that's why I objected. I don't think that's relevant. Maybe law enforcement, I don't even see that. But those were the reasons I objected. I don't think that it was proper. Nor is it relevant to whether or not Mr. Guo committed money laundering, wire fraud, or any kind of fraud. He has no involvement with her daughter.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, it's just to draw out periods of bias. If they're not going to cross her on bias, then I'll move on.
The court said, I don't think her daughter has anything to do with bias.
Mr. Ferguson said, it's just a benefit, an arguable benefit.
The court said, I see what you're saying, whether or not the government gave some sort of incentive.
Mr. Ferguson said, correct. And they watched her. They took her to the zoo, Your Honor. That's all.
Ms. Shrofa said, they've made it look like she needed some kind of FBI protection and babysitting by the FBI. That's number one. There was no relevance. And I read the 3500 material to suggest that the daughter's flight was not covered by the government. So I'm not really sure what bias I would have brought out. So I don't think bias is the reason they elicited this on direct, and they kept going even after my objection.
The court said, do you plan to ask questions about her flight and her accommodation and all of that?
Ms. Shrofa said, I certainly wasn't going to ask before now because that's certainly not about the daughter. I was not going to touch the daughter. But now they've opened the door, I don't have to think about it. But most certainly especially because I read the 3500 material. And if I read it wrong, somebody correct me. But they didn't pay for the daughter's flight, so why would I bring that out?
Mr. Ferguson said, you did read it wrong, but we'll move on, Your Honor. We'll just get started.
The court said, okay.
Continued on next page. In open court. By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, I want to back up and talk briefly about your personal background. What country did you grow up in?
In China.
How long did you live in China?
About 20 years.
Where did you move after that?
Australia.
Why did you move to Australia?
I started the university in Australia.
What did you study at university?
Accounting.
What degree, if any, did you receive?
Master of Accounting.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, Did she say master's in accounting?
The court said, so I need for you to speak up, really raise your voice. Go ahead. Master's in accounting is the answer.
Ms. Shrofa said, thank you, Your Honor.
And, Ms. Lee, after you received your master's in accounting, what did you do for work?
Work as accountant.
And aside from working for Milesqua, have you?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. That is not what she testified.
The court said, she did say she worked for Milesqua. You may continue.
Aside from working for Milesqua, have you worked as an accountant since getting your degree?
Yes.
Have you lived in Australia since moving there?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, when you lived in China, did you follow politics?
No.
Were you politically active?
No.
Did there come a time when you became interested in politics?
Yes.
Please explain how you first became interested in politics.
In 2017, my friend in China asked me to find out some true information about a school protest. That school why kids die, but the school tried to cover up. So a parent want to know the truth. So we go to protest in China, but they can't get the true information. So they ask me to find something from outside world, and when I go to YouTube.
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. I move to strike. It's all hearsay.
The court said, overruled. I need you to speak up, really speak into the microphone so we can hear you.
So then I go to YouTube, try to find some information about this incident happened in China. And then I watch the video about the earthquake from the VOA China. VOA have a documentary about the China's 2008 earthquake. During that time, advertisement coming up. So they were going to interview Milesqua, so there will be explosive whistleblower information. So I started watching the VOA.
So before that advertisement came up, had you heard of Milesqua before?
No.
Now, the advertisement that you watched, did you watch the interview as advertising?
Yes.
At a high level, what happened in that VOA interview?
About 1 hour the interview been cut off.
What, if anything, did Milesqua say about that?
He said that's because of CCP pressure of the VOA, so VOA cut it off.
What effect, if any, did this interview being cut off have on your impression of Milesqua?
I feel what he said is all true, so that's why CCP afraid of what he said to try to silence him.
After watching that interview, what, if anything, did you begin doing?
So I've been start following his Twitter account and YouTube account.
And remind us, Ms. Lee, what year was this interview?
2017.
You said you started following his Twitter and YouTube account. How often was Guo posting online?
Every day.
And how often were you following his post?
Every day.
How often were you watching his videos?
Every day.
How long were these videos?
About 30 minutes to 1 hour.
Would you watch part of them or all of them?
All of them.
Ms. Lee, what was your impression of Milesqua's wealth?
He's a billionaire in China.
Why did you think he was a billionaire in China?
He's on the rich list, the ranking at 74.
What was the rich list?
It's who in China rich list.
Ms. Lee, what, if anything, would you see in was broadcast?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection to the leading.
I said what, if anything, would you see in was broadcast, Ms. Lee?
He broadcasted expose all the corruption information about Chinese high-level officials.
And what would be the setting of his broadcast?
Usually in his apartment in Sherry, Netherlands 18th floor.
Ms. Lee, did there come a time when you were in direct contact with Guo?
Yes.
Approximately when was that?
Around 2018.
And what happened that led to you being in direct contact with Guo?
So in 2018 in his birthday, I made a birthday cake and I sent it to the leader of the Melbourne group. Supporter group, so I sent to him. And then he sent a photo of the cake to Milesqua. And Milesqua, then I've been added in a group WhatsApp group.
You said you made a birthday cake for whose birthday?
For Milesqua's birthday.
Did you send it to Milesqua or someone else?
to the Melbourne Group's leader at that time.
And after you sent a birthday cake for Miles Guo to that leader, what happened after that, Ms. Lee?
So he sent a photo of the cake to Miles Guo. And after that, I've been added in WhatsApp group.
And who was in this WhatsApp group?
All his supporters.
About how many supporters were in it?
About 20s.
And was Miles Guo in it?
Yes.
Were the supporters in this group, were they farm leaders?
No, that time no farm yet.
Remind us, what year was this?
2018.
What sorts of things were discussed in this WhatsApp group?
All about his broadcast and what happened in China like that.
Were there any business investments at this time?
No.
Around this time, Ms. Lee, what, if any, one-on-one chats with Guo did you have?
We have direct message. He sometimes send me some translation task, so I translate for him.
What sorts of things were you translating?
Mainly is legal document.
Ms. Lee, what is the Rule of Law Foundation?
Rule of Law Foundation established by Miles Guo and Steve Bannon on November 20, 2018.
The court said, "Keep your voice up."
What about the Rule of Law Society?
It's the same day established by Miles Guo and Steve Bannon, yeah.
Were you involved with either of those entities?
I've been appointed to be the director of the Rule of Law Foundation.
When did you become director of the Rule of Law Foundation?
Early 2019.
Who asked you to be a director?
Miles Guo.
What did he say to you?
He said he want me to be the director of the Rule of Law Foundation.
What was your reaction?
I feel that's my honor, so I accept it.
Ms. Lee.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Did she say that's my honor?"
Honor, at that time I feel that's my honor. I've been picked up by Miles Guo, so yes.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. We'll need you to keep speaking up, please. Ms. Lee. Who decided who was on the board of the Rule of Law Foundation?
Miles Guo.
How do you know that?
Because he appointed me.
What, if anything, did Miles Guo say about how the Rule of Law Foundation would be funded?
He's the biggest donor.
And what, if anything, did he say about how much he would donate?
He said he going to donate 100 million, and if we donate $1, he will match donate another $2, so 2/3 of the money will be his money, yeah.
Approximately when did he say those things?
In March 2019.
Ms. Loftus, could we show the witness what's in evidence as Government Exhibit 6-191? We can publish that. Ms. Lee, whose YouTube page is this?
This is Miles Guo's YouTube channel.
What, if anything, did Miles Guo say about Rule of Law donations in this broadcast?
He said he's going to donate 100 million. And if we donate $1, he will match. Donate another $2, so 2/3 of the money will be his money.
And Ms. Loftus, we can take that down. Ms. Lee, at the time did you believe Miles Guo would donate a $100 million to the Rule of Law?
Yes.
As a director, did you ever review Rule of Law's finances?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor. The period of the time she was a director is not in evidence."
The court said that she was a director is in evidence, but you can state when it was that you were a director.
What was the time period you were a director of the Rule of Law Foundation?
From start to around July 2023.
Ms. Lee, while you were a director of the Rule of Law Foundation, did you ever review Rule of Law's finances?
No.
Were you ever provided information on who was donating and how much?
No.
Did there come a time when you were asked to find out a fundraising figure?
Yes.
What were you asked to do?
One day Miles Guo asked me to arrange a first anniversary of new federal state of China. He wanted to know during that period how much fund we raised for Rule of Law Foundation and Society.
And after Guo asked you how much was raised, what did you do?
So I sent a message to ask the Rule of Law Foundation lawyer called Dan Podhasky.
And what happened after you asked Dan Podhasky about the fundraising?
He sent me some figures.
What did you do with those figures?
I sent to Miles Guo.
How much fundraising was there? What were the figures?
Total was about 700,000.
And after you relayed the 700,000 information, what was Guo's response?
He said not much money.
Ms. Lee, what, if any, chat groups were there related to rule of law?
There's a group of WhatsApp group for Rule of Law Foundation, the society directors with Miles Guo.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, the interpreter's mic may be near the witness and that may be the source of the feedback. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Ms. Lee, the chat for rule of law, which rule of law directors were in the chat?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection. There's no testimony about a chat for Rule of Law Foundation.
The court said, Sustained.
I'll re-ask, Your Honor. What, if any, chat groups were there related to rule of law, Ms. Lee?
So there's a WhatsApp chat group with Rule of Law Foundation and society directors and Miles Guo.
Which directors were in that chat?
At that time have Sarah Li Hong, Ni and Guo Xiaofeng and Miles Guo and all supporters. Directors of workers for supporters for Rule of Law Foundation, so it was a supporters group, yeah.
Who, if anyone, gave instructions to the Rule of Law chat group while you were a director?
Miles Guo.
And at a high level, what sorts of instructions did Miles Guo give to the Rule of Law directors?
What issues we need to discuss?
What, if anything, did Guo say in the chat group about protest?
Yes. He said, that's around September, August 2020. Say Rule of Law Foundation will support the protest start.
The court said, So I need you to speak up.
Ms. Lee, we can come back to that. Are you familiar with something called G News?
Yes.
What was G News?
G News is a platform, we post articles about the news.
Approximately when was G News created?
Around 2019.
Who created G News?
Miles Guo.
Who contributed to G News content?
Supporters have the right. So we would choose the supporters who had the good writing skill and give them the rights to post the articles.
Did you contribute to G News?
Yes.
What did you do?
So I will translate some articles and post there.
Who was ultimately in control of G News?
Miles Guo.
Did Guo ever raise money for G News?
No.
Ms. Lee, what was Guo Media?
Guo Media is social media platform and can do broadcast and video and post.
Approximately when was Guo Media in operation?
About 2019.
Did Guo ever raise money for Guo Media?
No.
What was the first business, Ms. Lee, that Guo raised money for?
GTV.
We'll talk about GTV in a moment. Okay?
Okay.
Ms. Lee, by the time Guo began offering business investments, how long had you been following Guo?
3 years.
After those 3 years, what level of trust, if any, did you have in Miles Guo?
100%, solid percent trust.
Please explain why you trusted him?
Because during the 3 years in his broadcast, what he said I feel are true.
And what had happened after he said those things in his broadcast?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection. What things?
The court said, If you can be more specific.
What sorts of things did he talk about in those 3 years in broadcast, Ms. Lee?
Exposing the CCP's corruption and how CCP infiltrated the Western countries.
And did you believe those things were true, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
And do you still believe the CCP is corrupt?
Yes.
When you first started following Guo in those 3 years, what kind of movement did you believe you were joining, Ms. Lee?
Ms. Shrofa said, Asked and answered.
The court said, Overruled. You may answer.
Democracy movement.
And at the start for 3 years before GTV, how were business investments involved in that democracy movement?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection.
The court said, You may answer.
G News.
Were there investments before GTV?
No.
Ms. Lee, what did you call Guo?
Tiga Brother 7.
Why did you call him Brother 7?
He asked us to call him Brother 7 because he's a seventh child in his family.
Continued on next page.
The court said, okay, so I want to remind you to keep your voice up there. Sometimes when you speak, we can hear you perfectly, but then your voice drops. So concentrate on making yourself heard.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
By Mr. Ferguson.
You said earlier he called you Mulan's sister. What was your understanding of why he called you Mulan's sister?
Because he said all his followers, we are brothers and sisters, we like a big family.
At the time when you were a follower, did Guo feel like family?
Yes.
When you were a follower and you had to decide between doing something Miles Guo needed and something your family needed, what did you do?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Lee, why did Guo feel like family?
Ms. Shrofa said, I believe this has been asked and answered several times.
Mr. Ferguson said, it hasn't, Your Honor.
The court said, it has not. You may answer.
Why did Guo feel like family, Ms. Lee?
Because we call each other brother and sisters, and we care of each other and we work together.
Turning to the investments. When you were a supporter, how much, if at all? Did you focus on what investment contracts said?
No, I just sign it where I need to sign. I don't read the whole contract.
Why did you just sign it?
Because we trust him.
You mentioned GTV.
Yeah.
Was GTV the only investment Guo promoted?
No.
Could you please list the investments that Guo promoted?
So there's GTV, after GTV is Farm Loan Program, after that is G Club Card Program, and new GTV and a new platform, and A15 and A10. And also there's cryptocurrency investment, so G Coin, G Dollar, H Coin, H Dollar, and there is a digital bank.
All right. Ms. Lee, you listed several investments. What were the main differences, if any, between these investments?
So one is for shares, another one is for cryptocurrency, another one for digital bank.
And Ms. Lee, try and keep your voice up, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Taking the one for shares first, which investments were for shares?
GTV Private Placement and Farm Loan Program, G Club Card Program, new GTV, new platform, A15, A10.
Which ones were for cryptocurrencies?
G Coin, G Dollar, H Coin, H Dollar.
And you said digital bank. What did Guo say the purpose of the digital bank project was?
The digital bank is the investment will be purchased digital bank called Mercantile Bank. And this investment, also you will get another bank in Europe and a betting license. But then later the betting license is cancelled.
Now, Ms. Lee, what promises, if any, did Guo make about all of the investments?
He guaranteed all investment will be no loss. If there's a loss, he will repay us all the loss. And also he promised all supporters investment money he will not use.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6-184. And if we could put it on mute, Ms. Loftus, and if we could play a little bit of it on mute for the witness, please. Ms. Loftus, maybe we can just scroll quickly through the end. All right. Ms. Loftus, what's this a video of?
Ms. Shrofa said, Ms. Loftus?
I'm sorry. Ms. Lee, what is this a video of?
This is Miles Guo's broadcast.
Have you reviewed this prior to testifying?
Yes.
Does it relate to investments?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 6-184.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may I have one voir dire question for the witness?
The court said yes.
Voir dire examination. By Ms. Shrofa.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Good afternoon.
Did you watch this particular video in the presence of the prosecutor in his office?
Yes.
And other than watching it in his office, did you watch it before then?
When he did this broadcast.
I can't hear you.
When he did this broadcast.
Ms. Shrofa said, I have no objection, Your Honor.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 6-184 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we could actually, I'm sorry, before Ms. Loftus, maybe we can tee it up. But at this time, Your Honor, the government will offer a stipulation between the parties. It's marked as Government Exhibit Stip 10. Your Honor, I'm trying to understand if there's an objection.
Ms. Shrofa said, it's a stipulation, Your Honor. I'm confused, but no. It's a stipulation between the parties.
The court said, so it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit Stip 10 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor. So I'll just read the stipulation. It says it's a stipulation regarding translations of GX6 exhibits. It says, it's hereby stipulated and agreed that between the parties that in the below chart, the exhibits listed under column A contain audio or text in a foreign language. And in the below chart the exhibits listed under column B are true and accurate translations of the audio or texts contained in the exhibits listed under column A. And at this time, the government will offer Government Exhibit 184T. Your Honor, the government offers Government Exhibit 184T.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 184T received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor. So, Ms. Loftus, if we could play the video, please, with audio. We'll just go ahead and play the whole thing.
Video played.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could please publish Government Exhibit 6-184T, please. And if we could blow that up. Thank you.
By Mr. Ferguson.
So I'll just ahead and read this, Ms. Lee, as for what these fellow fighters said. I will reiterate it again. You can either your borrow projects, invest, or buy H-coin, or buy any card. If you lose a penny and I will take responsibility. I reiterate that again. For any matter you are involved to the G-Series. There are also many other investors involved who are investing with us. Regardless of the reasons, if you lose a penny, Brother 7 will take responsibility. Again, I reiterate, I will take responsibility. Ms. Lee.
The court said, Mr. Ferguson, if you would lower your mic a bit because I believe that the way it's pointed towards the ceiling is causing the feedback.
Mr. Ferguson said, I see, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Lee, the reference to your borrow project, what's your understanding of what the borrow projects are?
Farm loan program.
And the reference to buy any card, what's your understanding of what that's referring to?
G Club card program.
Ms. Lee, was this video the only time Guo made this type of promise?
No, many times during this 3 years.
How often would he say these things in the 3 years?
The promises about investment.
And how often would he make these promises?
Always.
Ms. Lee, you said earlier Guo was on the rich list in China, right?
Yes.
At the time you were involved in these investment projects, did you believe that Guo could repay any investor losses?
Yes.
Did you believe that Guo could pay for any expenses?
Yes.
And you said you trusted him, right?
Yes.
What did Guo say about why he was doing these investment projects?
He said he wants his supporters be rich like him because CCP is scared of his supporters to be rich.
Did you believe him?
Yes.
Who could participate in these investment projects?
Only for his supporters.
Ms. Lee, what, if anything, did Guo say about using investor money for himself?
No, he said it's impossible. He never used investors' money for himself.
What effect, if any? Of his saying that, what effect did that have on your view of the investments at the time?
So all our invest money, it's safe and not being used.
What effect did that have on your level of trust?
100%.
Ms. Lee, did there come a time when Guo sent you objects in the mail?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, may I approach?
The court said you may.
Ms. Lee, I've just handed you what's marked as Government Exhibit 37. What is Government Exhibit 37?
It's Miles Guo's sunglasses.
And how do you know that?
Because he wears these for his broadcast.
And where did these sunglasses, how did they get to the courtroom today?
When he broadcast, wear these sunglasses. I said, it looks cool. It's very nice. And he said, if you like it, I can give to you. Then he sent it to me. And today I bring it to here.
Are those the sunglasses he sent to you?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 37.
The court said, no objection?
Ms. Shrofa said, no, Your Honor.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 37 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, permission to publish Government Exhibit 37 to the jury.
The court said you may.
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
The court said, is there an application?
Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, the evidence bag is not opened, and I would.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm going to open it.
Ms. Shrofa said, actually, I haven't seen the inside of it. So before he does that.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, we mentioned GTV earlier. What was GTV?
GTV is a platform Miles Guo established. It's to produce the truth and bring the true news from China to Western country and from Western country to China.
And does it exist today?
No.
Now, was there, in fact, a GTV website?
Yes.
And what was on it?
Once you registered and log in, so then you can see the broadcast videos and post.
Were there viewer numbers on the videos?
Yes.
Approximately how many views in total were there on some of Guo's videos on GTV?
Can be millions.
As a general matter. How did those numbers compare with the views of Guo's YouTube videos you had watched?
That's sometimes 100 times more.
At the time when you were a supporter, did you think the GTV viewer numbers were accurate?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection, Your Honor.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Why?
Because Miles Guo said his followers numbers about 2 billion all over the world.
2 billion?
Yeah.
Sitting here today, Ms. Lee, what's your opinion of whether the GTV viewer numbers were accurate?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. The relevance.
The court said you may answer. The objection is overruled.
Sitting here today, what's your opinion of whether the GTV viewer numbers were accurate?
No.
Why is that?
Because too high. And only his channel is this high. Other channels is low.
Ms. Lee, when did you first hear of GTV?
First hear GTV around early 2020.
And how did you hear about it?
In Miles Guo's broadcast.
In his broadcast, what did Guo say GTV was?
GTV is a media platform, will be like YouTube, Twitter, yeah, like these kind of social media platform.
And where was what, if anything, did Guo say about where GTV was trying to get its message to?
To mainland China.
And what was the significance of getting into mainland China?
Because Chinese government have the Great Firewall, they block the messages. So they have very strict censorship there. They can't get a lot of messages in the mainland China.
What, if anything, did Guo say about how he would get through China's strict censorship?
He said there's some Israel technology can help GTV to get into the firewall.
Did he explain what that Israeli technology was?
No.
At the time, did you believe him?
I believe it.
Ms. Lee, what did Guo say about the value of GTV as an investment?
At that time is 20 billion.
And what did he say about the value of GTV a year later?
600 billion, 60 billion.
And what about the returns on investment? What did Guo say about the return on investment?
Ms. Shrofa said, Objection, Your Honor. There is no delineation as to which investment the government is referring to.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm talking about GTV, Your Honor.
The court said, with respect to GTV.
By Mr. Ferguson.
With respect to GTV, what did he say about the returns on a GTV investment?
Can be 100 times.
What, if anything, did Guo say about the risks of investing in GTV?
There's no risk because all he guaranteed.
So you said earlier withdrawn. What, if any, requirements were there for participating as an investor in GTV?
So requirement is you need to donate to Rule of Law Foundation.
And what role, excuse me? What role, if any, did you play in that process?
I'm the one of the contact point. So if his followers/supporters want to join this investment, they can contact me or Sarah or Lude.
Ms. Lee, if you could please try and speak loudly into the microphone.
Okay.
All right. Now, you said you were one of the contacts?
Yeah.
What did people contact you about? What would they give you?
So they would say they want to invest to GTV and send me the receipt of their donation. So I would check this. Yeah.
And after you checked that they were donors, what did you do after that?
So I will send Miles Guo's WhatsApp number to them so they can contact Miles Guo.
Ms. Lee, as part of this process, what questions, if any, did you ask the potential investors about their investing experience?
I don't.
Ms. Strofa said, Objection. What's an investing experience?
The court said, you may answer.
I don't ask.
What questions, if any, did you ask these investors about their ability to lose their investment?
Ms. Strofa said, Objection.
The court said, you may answer.
I don't ask. So my role is just to checking if they are donor or not, if they are true follower or not.
Then you said you gave them Miles Guo's number. Was that his real number?
Yeah, his real WhatsApp number.
Ms. Lee, what, if anything, did Guo say about institutional or fund investors?
Yeah, there's institutional fund investors in GTV as well.
And do you have any independent knowledge based on your involvement of whether that's true?
I don't know. But that time we believe it.
With GTV, was this opportunity available at all times or only a limited time?
Only a limited time.
What did Guo say about that?
He said that it will finish end of May.
Ms. Lee, when Guo said all these things, at the time, did you believe him?
Ms. Strofa said, Objection. Asked and answered.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I totally believe, yeah.
What were the reasons you believed him?
Because I already follow Miles Guo for 3 years, so I trust him, everything.
Did you invest in GTV yourself?
Yes.
Had you ever made a private placement investment before?
No.
In deciding to invest, was what Guo said about risk important to you?
Yes.
Was what Guo said about personally guaranteeing any losses important to your decision to invest?
Yes.
If you had known that Guo's statements about risks were false, would you have invested?
No.
If you had known that Guo wouldn't personally guarantee any losses, would you have invested?
No.
Ms. Lee, when you invested in GTV, did you invest in your personal name or in the name of an entity?
Both.
Let's talk about them in turn. So your personal name investment, how much was that investment?
About 120,000.
Whose money was that?
That's some other followers' money.
And why did you invest in your name on behalf of other people?
Because that time the minimum investment requirement amount is 100,000. So if we can't individually invest that much money, so several supporters can invest together.
And where did you send $120,000 in your name?
Soraka.
What was your understanding of what Soraka was?
I don't know. I just followed the instruction.
And where did you get those instructions?
From Miles Guo's message.
What kind of message?
WhatsApp message about the how to invest the GTV or the document? Yeah.
Turning to the investment in the name of an entity, Ms. Lee, what entity did you use to invest?
My super fund.
What is a super fund?
A super fund is a pension fund, is a retirement money.
Whose retirement money was that?
Me.
Why did you use a retirement account to invest in GTV?
Because that time I thought this investment is low risk and a long time and a good return. So it's a good support for retirement.
How much did you invest with your retirement account?
30,000.
Where did you send that money?
Soraka.
Did you get the money from these investments back?
Yes, I get my personal name's money back from SEC.
And did you get 100% back from the SEC or less than 100%?
About 92%.
After you got that money back, what did you do with it?
I sent them back to the other supporters.
What about the $30,000 from your retirement account? Did you get that money back?
I haven't received refund yet.
Ms. Lee, what was the reinvestment rule?
Reinvestment rule is once you receive the refund from SEC. Within 45 days you should invest this money back to the investment project and then you can get 5% of each coin.
The court said, "Where does the reinvestment rule come from? Please."
The witness said, "Coming from Miles Guo."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, may we have a sidebar?"
The court said yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Thank you."
Continued on next page. At sidebar.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Your Honor, I didn't object, but there is no such thing as the reinvestors rule."
Mr. Ferguson said, "It's reinvestment."
Ms. Shrofa said, "I hadn't finished, but you feel free."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I'm sorry. I apologize."
Ms. Shrofa said, "So it is a term of art that the prosecution and the witnesses call it the reinvestment rule. Mr. Guo is not attributed with the phrase of the reinvestment rule. And that translation by the government would be wrong. But I'm just pointing this out."
The court said, "So let's remain with that. Where is it that you're getting this term from?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "The witness and other victims."
The court said, "So you're saying that they introduced the term to you?"
Mr. Ferguson said, "Correct."
The court said, "Okay."
Ms. Shrofa said, "The question."
Mr. Ferguson said, "They can cross on it."
Ms. Shrofa said, "The question the government posed is, what was the reinvestment rule, right, as though it is a rule. It's assumed there is a rule. There isn't any testimony that there was anything that led them to conclude to it being called the reinvestment rule. So it's tantamount to say, there is a PPM because there is such a thing as a private placement memorandum. That's a given. The reinvestment rule is a term of art that they've created. And there is no indication that the witness has created it first, and I can't tell from the 3,500 material. So I did have an objection to that."
The court said, "Okay. So before you continue, so Mr. Ferguson has just said that this witness and others first brought this term to the government."
Mr. Ferguson said, "That's correct."
Ms. Shrofa said, "But there is no evidence of that in the record. He's adopted that."
The court said, "Well, he has a witnesses who are claiming that this term and concept existed. So they may testify about it, whether or not it's in 3,500 materials."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Okay. It's my objection, I think."
The court said, "It's overruled."
Ms. Shrofa said, "Okay. That's fine. I did have an ongoing objection, Your Honor, and I've stopped making them. But I do believe that the government has asked at least 50 times what the basis of the trust was. And they've gone over and over again at every juncture. So to the extent they want to get their witness back, and we all have to come in at 9 o'clock. I think that redundancy I just wanted to note for the record."
The court said, "Okay. I want to hear Mr. Ferguson on that issue, please."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I was asking about different topics and different schemes."
Ms. Shrofa said, "He asked that in the beginning about all of the schemes, okay? He laid it all out, and then he laid it out when he showed the video about how it was that he called himself Brother Seven. And that was to establish family. Then he asked for all of the list of all of the investments, and he did it again. Look, there's a record. so the record will just speak for itself.
The court said yes. And it is appropriate when you have a litany of investments that he inquire as to why the investment was made and whether or not they were trusting the representations by Miles Guo. There's no rule that says once you've asked about it generally, that you cannot ask about the individual investments.
Ms. Shrofa said, but he's asked about the individual investments at least twice now.
The court said, perhaps it's because your client made these representations over and over and over again.
Ms. Shrofa said, it could be. But if the government wants to distinguish that he made these representations over a period of years, that's fine. But that's not how he's doing it. He's doing it project by project and he's doing it repeatedly. But that is my continuing objection. I also want to note that at no point when this witness was shown a video. She did not in any way, and she was questioned about this in terms of the Voice of America broadcast. Not once did she mention Voice of America. Voice of America was interjected into.
Mr. Ferguson said, she said VOA, and I said VOA. That's it.
Ms. Shrofa said, okay.
Mr. Ferguson said, I didn't say Voice of America.
The court said, so I heard VOA. So are you challenging that VOA stands for Voice of America?
Ms. Shrofa said, no. I'm challenging that it was the witness who said it first as opposed to the government who said it in their question. But, again, the record is out there. And I have a continuing objection to the government lawyer including facts that the witness has not testified to in the prompting of the next question. So those are my objections, Your Honor.
The court said, well, to the extent that he is including facts that are not yet in the record, the objection is proper.
Ms. Shrofa said, okay. And finally, the rich list. He's asked about the rich list at least 3 times. 3 times he's asked about this rich list. Over and over again, he's asking about what the rich list led her to conclude. I think it's pretty much established that she thought because of the rich list, he's rich. But again, these are my asked and answered objections, and I make them because, it's their witness that they want to get back to Australia.
The court said, so it's strange, Ms. Shroff, that you are complaining about the prosecution painting your client as wealthy. He appears in a number of videos in extravagant settings.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm not complaining they are painting him as wealthy. It's a given. I'm happy to have them do it. I'm just complaining that they are doing it over and over again in a cumulative manner, thereby suggesting to the jury that there's something wrong with wealth. We may not like wealth. It's not my thing in life. I'm an indigent defense lawyer for the most part. But frankly, it's over the top here. And the juxtaposition by the government, each time, even with the witnesses yesterday. The juxtaposition of the opulence to place it, it's my, look. The court, obviously you've overruled my objection. I most respectfully understand that. I just wanted to have it on the record, that's all.
The court said, it sounds to me like you're trying to argue that your client's excess is being portrayed excessively.
Ms. Shrofa said, yes, I am. That's exactly right. Thank you. That is exactly right. In an unfair, cumulative manner. And in a manner that is unduly prejudicial at this point. Even rich people deserve a good defense. And that is why I am objecting. I think it's cumulative. It's beyond the point cumulative.
The court said, I agree that he deserves a defense. But it is Mr. Guo who puts himself next to the Lamborghini and the jet and in a living room with gilded objects.
Ms. Shrofa said, I agree. It's not my thing. I understand. But it's also unduly prejudicial when it's put before the same witness over and over. He's asked about the rich list 3 times. Is that enough, or do we need to hear about the rich list 5 more times?
The court said, okay. Enough on the rich list.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm done with the rich list, Your Honor. I would like to keep the examination going, that's all.
The court said, okay.
Continued on next page. In open court.
The court said, you may continue.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
By Mr. Ferguson.
Ms. Lee, who came up with the reinvestment rule?
Miles Guo.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, could you please show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit VK5? Ms. Lee, what's this document?
Contract of the GTV private placement.
Did you receive this document as part of your investment?
Yes. VK 5.
Mr. Ferguson said, government offers government exhibit.
Ms. Schrofa said, no objection, Your Honor.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit VK 5 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, can you publish, please? While it's coming up, Ms. Lee, who did you receive the document from?
From Miles Guo.
Ms. Lee, do you see at the very top it says, GTV, everything is just the beginning?
Yes.
And towards the middle, what's the date?
Date, 20th of April 2020.
Mr. Ferguson said, all right. Ms. Loftus, if we can go down to page 10. And could we zoom under blow up for? Use of proceeds. Thank you. Ms. Lee. I'll just read the text under use of proceeds. It says, GTV Media plans to use the proceeds from a private placement to expand and strengthen the business. The contemplated use of proceeds is as follows: acquisition of companies to strengthen and grow GTV. Approximate 70%, upgrade of GTV technology and security, approximate 10%, marketing. Approximate 8%, working capital, approximate 7%, and other, approximate 5%. Ms. Lee. In the chart, is there anything about hedge fund investments?
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor. Is the government asking about her present reading of this chart, or is the government trying to elicit evidence that she ever reviewed this chart before today?
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm asking her about a document in evidence, whether it lists anything about hedge funds.
The court said, all righty. So you'll answer whether or not the document in front of you lists anything about a hedge fund.
The witness said, no.
Is there anything about investing in Heyman Capital?
No.
Now, Ms. Lee, when you invested in GTV, did you read the documents closely?
No, I don't read. I just sign where I need to sign.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, we can take this down. Why didn't you read the documents closely?
Because I trust Miles Guo 100%.
And this was GTV. What about the other contracts and documents?
Same. I just sign where I need to sign.
What did you rely on in making your investment decisions?
What he said in Miles Guo's broadcast.
In his broadcasts? Did Guo ever say that your GTV investment money would be used to invest in a hedge fund?
No.
If you had known that your money would be sent to a hedge fund, would you have invested?
No.
Now, did Guo ever discuss in broadcasts investing himself in a hedge fund?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said Soraka invested.
Invested in what?
But not GTV.
I'm sorry, Ms. Lee?
Soraka invested, but not GTV.
And what did he say Soraka invested in?
100 million.
Ms. Schrofa said, objection. Non-responsive, and I move to strike.
The court said, overruled. You may, the answer stands.
And where did he say he sent that 100 million?
In the broadcast.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6-158. And if we could put it on mute, you can play some of it. You can skip forward, Ms. Loftus. You can skip all the way to the end. All right. Now, Ms. Lee, what is this a video of?
This is Miles Guo's broadcast.
Did you watch this broadcast at the time?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 6-158.
Ms. Schrofa said, may I ask, Your Honor?
The court said, yes, you may.
Voir dire examination. By Ms. Schrofa.
Ms. Lee, what year was this broadcast?
2020.
You believe this broadcast was made in 2020?
Mr. Ferguson said, excuse me, Your Honor. It's not cross yet.
Ms. Schrofa said, I can't hear her.
The court said, her answer was 2020.
By Ms. Schrofa.
Is it your testimony you saw this in 2020 or in preparation with the government or both?
Yes.
The court said, "Are you saying that you saw it in 2020?
The witness said, when this broadcast, I saw it.
Ms. Shrofa said, "I have no objection."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6-158 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could actually, just for the moment, Your Honor. Pursuant to the stipulation regarding translations of GX6 exhibits, it's Stip 10. The government will also offer the translation, it's Government Exhibit 6-158T.
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6-158T received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, Thank you, Your Honor. All right. Ms. Loftus. Let's play this with sound and then we'll go to the translation.
Video played.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, let's publish the translation Government Exhibit 6-158T, please. At the top, please. Ms. Loftus.
By Mr. Ferguson.
So, Ms. Lee, focusing you on the third row down, date. What's the date of that video?
November 11th, 2020.
Mr. Ferguson said, let's scroll down to the text, please, Ms. Loftus. And if we could blow it up, please. And I'll go ahead and read the text, Ms. Lee. At the beginning, my comrades wanted to follow Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass to do the 200 times leverage. Many comrades said that, this, Brother 7, sent me a lot of messages, Brother 7. I wanted to invest money. I wanted to invest money in shorting the Hong Kong dollar at 200 times the leverage. They all wrote authorization letters to me, but I refused them all. Everyone remembers this matter, right? The US media announced that Biden was elected. The Hong Kong dollar. Do you know how much you lost by shorting the Hong Kong dollar, brothers and sisters? All Kyle Bass funds lost 50%, lost 50%. You did not lose, fellow comrades, Soraka, you did not invest. Soraka invested. Soraka invested 100 million US dollars, and now it has lost 50 million. It has lost 50 million. The day before yesterday. Received a notification from the fund telling everyone that half of your account balance has been lost in the market. Which is 50 million. Brothers and sisters, if you said that when Guo had a bad conscience at the time, I would ask my comrades to invest, then today half of your money would have been lost. I would like to ask everyone. Is there any reason why GTV investment will be reduced by half? Never. Please, you can take everything. It will never be. This is one Guo's feelings for his comrades. You can never lose half of your investment in GTV because every penny you invest must be audited by American legal accountants. I can't use the money you invested to buy a Japanese meal today, so I would be arrested directly. The United States will really arrest you. Then you want to. The money invested by the comrades will all be in the comrades' companies and GTV will never be able to. But if you heard today that you will lose 50% of your money because of Biden's false election, how painful would it be for you? Can Wengue sit here and have a Japanese meal with you? Impossible. Brothers and sisters, this is Wengue measured by facts. Ms. Lee. Towards the top and in the bottom of the first paragraph, where it says, they all wrote authorization letters to me. But I refused them all. Everyone remembers this matter, right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Did you write him an authorization letter?
No, I didn't.
To your knowledge, did anyone else?
I don't know anyone else.
And Ms. Lee, a little lower down, where he said, you did not use fellow fighters, Soraka. You did not invest, Soraka invested 100 million US dollars, and now it has lost 50 million, lost 50 million. What did you understand that to mean?
This means our GTV investment didn't invest to that the fund, but Soraka invested. The Soraka is his money. Not using investors' money.
And a little lower down when he said, I can't use the money you invested to buy a Japanese meal today. So I will be arrested directly. What did you understand that to mean?
So he knows he can't use invested money even to buy a Japanese meal, otherwise he will be arrested.
What's your understanding of why he referenced a Japanese meal?
When he doing this broadcast, he's eating the Japanese meal at that time.
Ms. Lee, did you think your money or any GTV investment money was being used to invest in Kyle Bass's hedge fund?
No.
Why not?
Because he said all our money isn't invest there, only Soraka's money. And if he used our money, he will be arrested.
Ms. Lee, what were the farms?
Farm is Miles Guo established around April/May 2020.
And?
It's supporters group over the world. So every country we have a lone farm for his supporters.
Were the farms operating since 2020, you said, through your time working for Miles Guo?
Yes.
Who, if anyone, told the farms what to do?
Miles Guo.
How do you know that?
Because he told me.
What was the Himalaya Farm Alliance?
Is all the farm together, we call it Himalaya Alliance.
Who is Brother Long Island?
He's Himalaya Alliance Secretary.
And Ms. Lee?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry, I cannot hear her.
The court said, please speak up.
If you point it towards you, it might work better.
He's Himalaya Alliance Secretary.
What other names did Brother Long Island go by?
Chang Dao Go.
Do you know his real name?
Yes.
What is it?
Xia Qi Dong.
Could you spell that?
Xiaqing.
What was the Iron Blood Group?
Iron Blood Group is created by Miles Guo about December 2020. This group requires a member need to be selfless, have strong mind, as iron on the stew, and keep judgment, justice, result in personal interest. Personal benefits.
Who are the members of the Iron Blood Group?
Initially is Brother Chang Dao, Lao Ban Zhang.
If you could spell that.
Laobnzhng. And then is UK David, and the Japan grassroots Brother Chao Zhen Xiaoga. And around April I've been added in.
April of what year?
April 2021.
Was Miles Guo a member?
Yes.
Who came up with the name Iron Blood Group?
Miles Guo.
Why was blood in the name?
Iron means we need to have a strong mind like iron in the stew. Blood is we like brother and sisters. And our life and death together.
How would Guo communicate instructions to the farms?
We have a group. So he will send some messages, voice messages into the group. And then sometimes we have online meeting.
How often would you have meetings with Guo?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry. General meetings, or is she testifying to the Iron Blood Group meetings?
The court said, if you'll break it down, please.
Mr. Ferguson said, yes, Your Honor. Let's start with this first. How often would there be Iron Blood Group meetings?
Can be any time when Miles Guo required.
About how long would the meetings be?
Can be 30 minutes to few hours.
What sorts of things would be discussed?
About management of the Himalaya Alliance and some investment issues and some other issues coming from other farm. Yeah.
What were some of the issues with investments?
Like how we start the new project, what's the rule, how to record supporters' investment. And checking investment, supporters' investment.
Who gave directions on what to do with investment issues?
Miles Guo.
How do you know that?
Because he gave me directions.
Ms. Lee, what was the NFSC?
NFSC is New Federal State of China, established 4th of June 2020 by Miles Guo and Steve Bannon.
And what was the connection, if any, between the farms and the NFSC?
All the farms is under New Federal State of China. This is our group formal name. Our organization's formal name.
Was G-Clubs another term for the farms or NFSC?
No.
Why not?
G Club is one of the G series business.
Ms. Lee, what was the farm loan program?
Farm loan program started around July 2020. That time the GTV private placement already finished. Miles Guo said there's still very high demand for GTV shares, and the solution is we start a farm loan program. So through this farm loan program, so the other supporters who missing out the private placement can still get GTV shares.
What did Guo say about how this farm loan program would work?
So supporters send money to each farm and they sign a loan agreement. And then farm will send the money to Miles Guo's company and sign agreement. And eventually the supporters will get GTV shares.
When you say farms would send money to Miles Guo's company, how did you refer to that company?
We called him headquarter companies.
What's a headquarter company?
That's Miles Guo's companies.
Who came up with that term?
Miles Guo.
Now, Ms. Lee, what was the name of your farm?
G Translators.
Did G Translators have a company?
Yes.
And what was the name of your farm's company in summer 2020?
G Translators Proprietary Ltd.
The court said, "So I need you to speak into the microphone. Speak more loudly."
Ms. Lee, if you can point it toward your mouth, I think that can help the feedback.
Okay.
Okay. G Translators Proprietary, Limited. Did G Translators participate in a farm loan program?
Yes.
Did you sign loan agreements with members and collect money?
Yes.
Where did you get the loan agreement from?
From Miles Guo.
Did he send it directly or through someone else?
Through Brother Island Changdao.
Did you sign the loan agreements with your members?
Yes.
And did you sign for yourself or on behalf of your farm? Or withdrawn? Did you sign for the farm?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, to your understanding, was G Translators actually borrowing money from these members?
No.
Why were you collecting money from members?
We collecting monies and then we send it to Miles Guo's company.
And what was the purpose of doing that, to your understanding?
To get GTV shares.
Approximately how much money did G Translators collect from its members in the first farm loan program?
About 3 million.
From approximately how many members?
About 14 members.
And did you send your own money in this farm loan program?
No.
Why not?
Because I already participate the GTV private placement, I already have the GTV shares.
After G Translators collected the $3 million from members, what did you do next?
Ask Miles Guo where should I send this money, and then he sent me a bank account.
Did you ask Miles Guo where to send the money directly or through an intermediary?
Directly.
How did he respond?
He sent me a bank account detail.
What was the name of the bank account?
Medical supply.
And what country was that bank account in?
In US.
Did you, in fact, send money to the medical supply bank account in the US?
Yes.
How much did you send?
About 2 million.
Why did you only send 2 million of the 3 million?
Because Miles Guo asked me to keep 1 million to pay some expenses.
We'll come back to the 1 million.
Yeah.
When you sent the 2 million to medical supply, was there a loan agreement between G Translators and medical supply?
No.
Was there any other contract between G Translators and medical supply?
No.
Why were you comfortable sending that $2 million to medical supply at that time?
Because I trust Miles Guo 100%.
Did you know anything about what the medical supply was?
No, I thought one of his company.
Approximately when did you send the $2 million to the medical supply account?
October 2020.
Now, you said there was no contract at that time, correct?
No.
Ms. Strofa said, "Objection." Asked and answered.
The court said, "Overruled."
Mr. Ferguson said, "I'll move on."
The court said, "Go ahead."
were you ever provided a loan agreement or contract with medical supply?
Yes, no. Sorry.
That's okay. Let me ask, were you ever provided a loan agreement or contract with medical supply?
No, never.
Did there come a time when you were provided an agreement with a different company?
Yes.
Around when were you provided that agreement?
About a year later.
Now, before you got that agreement, what, if any, discussions were there about which company G translators would have a loan agreement with?
It is discussion with the brother Long Island Chang Dao about who signed this loan agreement. Brother Chang Dao said before we prepare to sign with ACA, but William J.E. refused to sign. So we have to find another company to sign. We're waiting for instruction another company to sign. Because I ask why take so long to get the agreement.
You said Chang Dao mentioned ACA.
Yeah.
What, if any, knowledge did you have about what ACA was?
ACA is one of Miles Guo's company.
To your knowledge, where is it?
In Abu Dhabi.
Did you have any other information about it?
No.
Did you know what William G.E.'s role was at ACA?
I don't know.
The court said, "Are you saying Abu Dhabi?"
The witness said, Abu Dhabi.
Ms. Lee, just try and keep your voice up, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Did you know why a loan agreement with ACA would have required William J.E. to sign it?
I don't know.
Now, Ms. Lee, were you sent a loan agreement between your farm and ACA?
No.
What was the company on the loan agreement you ultimately received?
Alpha Global Ventures.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6-20. Ms. Lee, what's this document?
This loan agreement between my farm, G Translator, with headquarter company called Alpha Global Ventures Limited.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 6-20.
The court said, "No objection."
Ms. Strofa said, "Your Honor, may we just have a minute?"
The court said, "Okay."
Counsel conferred.
Ms. Strofa said, "We have no objection."
The court said, "It is admitted."
Government's Exhibit 6-20 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor. If we could publish that, please, Ms. Loftus.
By Mr. Ferguson.
All right. Ms. Lee, do you see at the top here, top center it says promissory note?
Yes.
Beneath that, what is the principal amount?
3 million.
3 million and some change?
Yeah.
And what was the effective date?
8th of October 2020.
Is that the date you received this loan agreement?
No, this is the day I send the money to medical supply.
And about how long after October 8th, 2020 did you receive this agreement?
About a year later.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could zoom out. And if we could blow up the bottom third or so where it says now therefore. Who is the borrower in this loan agreement?
It's called Alpha Global Ventures Limited, a British Virgin Island corporation.
Did you send money to Alpha Global Ventures Limited?
No.
All right. Now, Ms. Lee, underneath interest rate.
Ms. Strofa said, "Your Honor, to the extent it's relevant, it's past 2:45. I didn't know how long we were going today."
The court said, "We're going to go to 3.
Actually, before we turn to interest rate, on Alpha Global, where was that company based?
British Virgin Island.
All right. And now focusing on interest rate, what is the interest rate listed in the contract?
3% per annum.
3% per annum? Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could scroll down to the bottom, page 7. Who signed this?
It's me.
Who signed it for the borrower?
No one.
Is there a name listed?
No.
Is there a title listed?
No.
Ms. Lee, have you reviewed this contract previously?
No.
Why did you sign it?
Because this every farm required to sign.
Mr. Ferguson said, we can zoom out. Ms. Lee, who sent you this loan agreement?
Zhang Yongbin.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, if we could show the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 121. Ms. Lee, who's this?
Zhang Yongbin.
Mr. Ferguson said, Government offers Government Exhibit 121.
Ms. Shrofa said, no objection, Your Honor.
The court said, it is admitted.
Government's Exhibit 121 received in evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, can you please publish, Ms. Loftus? Ms. Lee, who is Zhang Yongbin?
Zhang Yongbin is one of Miles Guo's supporters.
And what's your understanding of his occupation?
He's a lawyer, immigration lawyer in U.S.
After you signed the Alpha Global loan agreement, what did you do with it?
I sent it back to him.
Did you ever receive a copy signed by Alpha Global?
No.
We saw the loan agreement included interest payments, correct?
Yes.
Were you ever asked to calculate what you were owed?
Yes.
By whom?
Zhang Yongbin.
When did Zhang Yongbin ask you to do that?
Same time, when we prepared this loan, signed this loan agreement.
And what did you do in response?
I calculated and sent it to Zhang Yongbin.
Did you ever receive interest payments?
No.
To your knowledge, did your farm members ever receive interest payments?
No.
Did you ever receive GTV stock?
No.
To your knowledge, did your farm members ever receive GTV stock?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, you can take it down, Ms. Loftus. Now, Ms. Lee, are you aware of other farms receiving interest payments?
Yes.
Which ones?
Mountain Spices.
Any others?
No.
Where was Mountains of Spices based?
In New York, a New York farm.
And what, if any, connection did Brother Changdao or Brother Long Island have to that?
He's leader of this farm.
And how do you know that that farm received interest payments?
We have a discussion with Brother Island Changdao, and he said,
Ms. Lee, please keep your voice up.
Oh. We have a discussion with Brother Island Changdao. He said that Mountain Spices farm received the interest.
What's your understanding of why Mountains of Spices received interest payments?
Because that time SEC start investigation Mountain Spices farm.
And what did the SEC's investigation have to do with paying interest to Mountains of Spices?
Ms. Shrofa said, objection.
To your understanding.
The court said, you may answer.
Because they want to show the SEC this real loan, not for GTV shares.
Ms. Lee, were the farm loan program contracts real loans?
No, it's for GTV shares.
Now. We talked about how Miles Guo told you to send your farm's money to medical supply or $2 million to medical supply.
Yeah.
Ms. Shrofa said, objection. That was not a question.
The court said, the question is coming.
Did Miles Guo tell you where to send other farms' loan program funds as well?
Yes.
Please describe how that worked.
So other farm collect enough money so they would ask for bank account. Then I would ask Miles Guo where to send. He will send me the bank account detail and I send back to other farms.
Where was the other farm loan money being sent?
ACA Capital.
And remind us, where is ACA Capital's bank account?
It's in Abu Dhabi.
Now, Ms. Lee, you said earlier Guo told you to keep $1 million of your farm money, correct?
Yeah.
What did you do with that $1 million?
So I made payment to IT contractors' customer services, and as Miles Guo's other directions.
Did you coordinate that with Guo directly?
No, it's through Yvette Wang.
And why did you coordinate with Yvette Wang on that?
Miles Guo say Yvette Wang will tell me how to do it.
What is Yvette Wang's Chinese name?
Wang Yanping.
Could you, for the court reporter, could you please spell that, Ms. Lee?
WNGYNPing.
Mr. Ferguson said, Ms. Loftus, could we please show just the witness what's marked as Government Exhibit 6-173? And we could scroll a couple of pages down for the witness. And we could scroll up. Ms. Lee, what's this document?
This confirmation about G Translator's farm loan program pay for headquarters some expenses.
And who signed this document?
Wang Yanpin and me.
Mr. Ferguson said, the government offers Government Exhibit 6-173.
The court said, no objection?
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, I think we do actually have an objection.
The court said, all right. So let's save that for later on.
Mr. Ferguson said, given the time, Your Honor, would you like me to? I think it's maybe 2:58. Should we break at this point?
The court said, yes, I think it's a good idea. So, members of the jury, we're going to stop for the day. Tomorrow morning you'll come into the courtroom at 9, but you can come into the jury room at 8:30. Your breakfast will be there at 8:30. Remember that you're not allowed to discuss the case amongst yourselves. You're not permitted to let others discuss it in your presence. Don't read, watch or listen to anything from any source concerning anything having to do with this case. Have a good evening.
Jury not present.
The court said, you may be seated.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, may we excuse the witness?
The court said, yes, you may be excused. And don't discuss your testimony. You may step out.
Witness not present.
The court said, so I would like the attorneys to be ready tomorrow at 8:45 to discuss any matters before we start at 9 a.m.
Mr. Ferguson said, yes, Your Honor.
The court said, is there anything? Well, we have the open objection. Ms. Schroff.
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, I actually just wanted. I have to confer, because I wasn't sure about the translation to 173. So that was essentially my objection. And I'd be happy to get back to them before court tomorrow as to whether or not we maintain the objection or not.
Mr. Ferguson said, it is mostly in Mandarin, Your Honor. There's parts of it that are just in English. We're not offering a translation, just the original.
Ms. Strofa said, so this is a new one for me. I'm pretty sure that one juror has some language skills. I can't take a position right now. I do need to confer. I'd be happy to.
The court said, all right. So we can discuss that at 8:45 tomorrow. Is there anything else?
Mr. Ferguson said, I think, Your Honor, we could probably be able to give them a translation. We're happy to try and do that as soon as we can after this so they can review it. And if we want to offer the translation, we're fine with that, too.
The court said, okay. That's a good idea.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Strofa said, Your Honor, I had a commitment tomorrow morning, which I'm happy to move around. But I have the same one on Friday. I just need to know how much longer the direct will be. I'm not asking the court to change its position of having anybody come in earlier. I just need to know if we are actually going to go all day tomorrow for the direct.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm sorry, is the question if my direct will go all day?
Ms. Strofa said, how long his direct will go, that's the question.
Mr. Ferguson said, I'm hesitant to estimate. I don't think all day, Your Honor. But there's a fair amount more to talk about. I'd say possibly 2/3, maybe less of 2/3 remaining. Hopefully a little less than that.
Ms. Strofa said, okay. I will move my schedule around. It's fine. It's okay, Your Honor. Thank you.
The court said, is there anything else you wanted to raise?
Ms. Strofa said, no, Your Honor. Thank you.
The court said, all righty. Have a good evening.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
Adjourned to June 6, 2024 at 8:45 a.m.